Okay, hi guys. Welcome to 𝐬𝐚𝐽 2.0. This is the first session, and today we're going to learn about entrepreneurship. But it's not just, a startup. According to me, it's more about building a brand, building a community, and that's what we're going to, learn about today. And our speakers are Aman Jory. He is the CEO of Jatayu Unmanned Systems and my inspiration. So even I have a startup and I was inspired by Aman. And the second speaker is Sharanam Khurana. He's the director, Sophine Brands and Marketing Private Limited. He's also a CA and he's a very humble guy. As long, I have talked to him and he's amazing. So my name is 𝐁𝐴 and I'll be your moderator this evening. So without further ado, let's get started into the session. So we're going to talk about being an entrepreneur and the whole, about the whole thing. So my first question would be like, entrepreneurship is a vast field and like there's no specific pay scale. But if you had to narrow it down to an average income, what would it be? My question is to Aman. So, what is the average income of an entrepreneur?
So that really depends on a lot of different factors. Let's say, let me talk about the company first, and then the pay scale of an entrepreneur. I'm assuming the entrepreneur is one of the founding members or the top management of a company. In a lot of cases, during the scale-up phase, after the B type, C type, or D type funding, most founders come as either sleeping partners or directors in a company where their job is to just give direction, and the board, which is comprised of mostly investors, will try to bring in a CEO, a specialized CEO who is good at doing 10x, 20x, 100x, 200x, kind of inorganic scale up. So in either case, let's talk about pre-scale up and then post-scale up of a company. The valuation of a company in your dream phase, the dream story, depends on the industry you're in. For example, I'm from aerospace, defense, aviation, broadly those fields. The defense dream story scale up is almost about 7 to 8x in the pre-scale up phase, which means if I put 100 rupees in a company, by the time I get my first product out, I should be making sale of 700 rupees. That's the idea. And in that case, in the pre-scale up stage, the entrepreneur almost takes nothing as salaries in the company. And it's one of the first cardinal sins that we learn as entrepreneurs, that you should always pay yourself first. Because if you're not financially viable, firstly yourself, in the process of ensuring that everything goes according to pace, you might get broke yourself. You might, get into bankruptcy yourself as an individual, whether your company does or not. But in the initial pre-scale up phase, entrepreneurs take almost no salary. Almost everything that comes into the company goes into first paying your employees, and then goes into reinvestment into R&D, into making projects and products better. So that's number one. But yes, during scale up phase and post scale up phase, when your equity is diluted, when there are more investors, and textiles, for example, or let's say automation, automobiles, electric vehicles, all of these have a PX multiplication scale of almost 15 to 20x. In which case, the salaries of an entrepreneur can range anywhere between 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs a month to some I know who are also at 45, 50 lakhs a month, based on how well they're able to deliver to the company, how valuable they are and what they're doing, and what kind of profits they can earn for the company. So it all depends kind of on that.
All right. Okay. So that was about payment and salary and everything. So when you're an entrepreneur, the industry matters a lot as well, right? So could you tell more about it, like in the sense what is trending now, and in the future, like in 5 years, 10 years, what would be a good industry to go into as such to yeah. Same question, Aman.
You have to kind of look at some of the trends that are following at the moment. For example, taking up to arts and music was considered maybe an off-grade profession maybe 20 years ago, when arts and general performing arts was not considered a viable professional option. But today, in performing arts itself, or largely performing arts, let me tell you about a sector that is doing exceedingly well. It's called streaming and gaming, right? Using online platforms where your investment is almost minuscule. To the if I have to tell you investments that I have made into the defense sector versus someone like a gamer makes, a stream on YouTube. The kind of things they have done with the social media platform and engaging many people at any given time, whether it's raising funds for a charity or whether it's raising funds to be national team that competes in that sport globally. I'm talking about Counter Strike, I'm talking about Dota, some of these games. I think if there are people, Shanam from from our age gap, they will remember as games we used to play when we used to pass time, but for some people now it's a full-time profession. And a gamer earns a lot more than a conventional engineer would today. And that's not because suddenly engineering is a bad choice. It's because gaming and streaming as such has become such a popular thing, right? So if I'm talking about specific industries and the future that you're looking at, artificial intelligence is one of them. It's picked up pace in the last 10 years. It's come to fruition now, but getting adapted into industry takes a while. So I'm saying in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll have automation, artificial intelligence as one of the big ones. You'll have data science that's going to suddenly take over in a big way. Now everything is data. Everything was data. We just didn't know how to process it better. But you've got full startups and companies who are in that space, so they are kind of getting into this. You'll have low cost space race. Let me explain what low cost space race is. The space race in conventional terms was fought between, let's say, a NASA, ISRO, a JAXA, or an ESA, or like a Cosmo of Russia, where you would have government funded large scale space projects. But now you have startups in this space kind of disintegrating this market into specific segments, and people taking up these very specific job roles in the space industry that's kind of exploding out of proportion. We've got companies in India like AgniCool and Skyrocket who've individually raised up to $150 million over the last 5 years. So you've got these low cost space technologies. You've got anything to do with highly advanced technology, for example, electric vehicles, EV. It's here. I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to come in the next 5 years. It's here right now. The question is, are Indian startups and Indian entrepreneurs ready to take on that challenge, make India a global player? And we have the opportunity for that. So I think some of these sectors are like really opening up and booming in the near future. And I think that's where the world is going.
Okay. Sharanam, if I ask the same question to you, what do you think, according to you, are the industries which are going to boom later? I mean, the entrepreneurs, like young entrepreneurs, can go into, who don't have a lot of funding yet. So that kind of people, what industries should they target?
Well, I think anything right now that contains artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, the IoT model that we say, that will boom. I mean, whether it is, if it's a car, it's a fridge, it's a washing machine, it's even maybe even a device that you're using that was earlier not totally compatible with the Internet. Now, considering anything that contains artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, that is going to prosper, that is going to be the next level of growth, even for a basic company. For example, I'll take now, I am from the FMCG business, I have an FMCG company. I also have a textile business on the other hand. In textiles, at the agriculture business, the agriculture itself, the technologies that are coming up in the agriculture sector, be it hydroponics, be it even very drought-ridden areas having a kind of irrigation facilities through the Internet of Things, the drip irrigation models that are coming up now, the automated irrigation systems, all these things in agriculture, as well as the technologies, the soil testing. Now you can even take a photograph of a soil of your land, and you can get what are the contents of it, what are the pros and cons of that particular land. So I think agriculture is one sector where I really feel that technology is not penetrated very well in terms of the actual farming process, not the machinery, the actual farming process, the science of farming. So that is one area where agriculture, I really think agriculture is one area where you can really feel that it's an under-tapped sector where if people venture out, I think they can find some very good growth very early on, and not with much investment. Definitely some investment, but not with much investment as I see.
Right. Yeah, the agriculture needs that kind of industry. And so after this section, just this thing for an audience, for the audience. After this section, we'll be, opening the floor for 2-3 questions. So if you have any, please put it in the chat box, and we'll try to cover all of them as much as we can. So Sharanam, so being an entrepreneur requires a lot of skills. So what would you think? Like, what are the main skills we should focus on for being an entrepreneur?
See, firstly, what I feel is more than skills, I would say there are some virtues and qualities that an entrepreneur should have. Because nobody is a born businessman. Skills are always acquired on the go as you move on in your life, as you learn your business, and as you see other people's business. Some of the things that instead of skills, I would first like to talk about the virtues and qualities that someone as a businessman should have, which I'm sure even Aman will concur with me. That is selfless commitment to your business. There is, there is no Sunday, there is no off day, there is no good day, there is no bad day. Every day is you take it on the go, but you never stop. That is what is selfless commitment you should have. I mean, हम कहते हैं रात को 3 बजे भी कोई मेरे को उठ के पूछे मेरी कंपनी के बारे में, मुझे पता होगा. Sometimes, there were times, even now also, I have dreams about some of my things. कि यार ये हुआ कि नहीं? What about that project? अरे यार ये सोचा था last year इसके बारे में सोचा था. Suddenly some things come up in your dreams. So that is the level of commitment that your business requires. Otherwise, competition is cutthroat. Everywhere you go, there is someone there to put you down. If not put you down, at least there's someone there to cut you out. So that is one thing. Selfless commitment is one thing. The second skill that I feel you should have is time management. I personally feel that there is nothing like multitasking. It's purely time management. And I know that we say that लड़कियों को multitask करने की बहुत ज़बरदस्त talent है, inherent skill है. But honestly, time management is what requires, because I myself struggle in this aspect sometimes. But you cannot multitask on everything. You have to have time slots. You have to have compartmentalization of your own time, because if you are the, as Aman said, ideally if you're an entrepreneur, you are the founding member or the top level management person, your time costs the company money. You cannot be doing things that other people can do for you much cheaply. So you have to be doing the expensive part, the actual load pulling part, which nobody else can do. Another thing is, as an entrepreneur about your own business, you should know the pressure points of your business. They should be on a tip of your fingers. You cannot keep going into every expense, every income level, every kind of service that they're doing, or every product you're selling. You have to know it on a macro level and judge it from your macro level perspective. So you should have those parameters, and which you can see probably on a daily basis or even on an hourly basis, or however your business is. You should be able to gauge from them where your business is heading, and from that you should be able to decide where your business should go. Another thing that I feel is the manpower management. Often, even being in business with my own father, he often says, "तुम अकेले एक आदमी का काम कर सकते हो, but अगर चाहो तो लाखों का काम करवा सकते हो." So that is one skill you should know as to manpower handling and where to deploy your human resource, which can do. Now today, Mukesh Ambani is the chairman of the Reliance Group, but he himself must be having one particular job, which is the main job. But he is making almost 1 lakh people work for him, and it is running successfully. So that is one manpower management skill that every entrepreneur should have if you want to scale up, you want to expand quickly and organically.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. So as a student,
one more point about every entrepreneur, I feel they take it laying back, is knowing where to shut down. At one point, you will be burned out completely, probably with the stress, the pressure, the pressure you put on yourself. That is one very big aspect, that the amount of pressure you put on yourself to succeed, to maybe even surpass somebody else. But at some points, you should know when to cut off, when to shut down for a bit, rejuvenate, and then come back.
Yeah, right. That does make sense. Yeah. So as students, like all of us mostly are students here, And like, how do you develop these skills early on? Like, how do you develop them as students? Because we have homework, this thing, blah blah blah. So how do you develop all of these skills in a school, or like while doing your normal work? So Sharanam, if you could answer that.
The basic thing I think you can learn from your own school at your school time, learn to meet your study deadlines. That's the first lesson. कौन सा चैप्टर कब खत्म करना है वो खत्म होना चाहिए उस टाइम पे भैया. वो सब्जेक्ट, the amount of days you plan before your board exams or any of your exams, you should be willing to meet those deadlines and meet them honestly and in a proper way. You cannot lie to yourself. As a student, I feel often you say that okay, मैंने मेहनत की है, मैंने बहुत कुछ किया है, but if you know you've done well, that's all. जितना भी आए 70 आए 80 आए 90 आए के 100 आए. So learn to meet your study deadlines as a student, because that's the first kind of commitment that you will make to yourself, which is also another virtue that I talked about as an entrepreneur. The second thing I feel is it's rather an incident from school. I remember the school has a very important role in making such activities. Now, I remember in my 12th, the commerce section, we had an assignment from our commerce teacher that we have to make a small business, sell anything within the school premises. Our target profit percentage was 300%, which I think right now nobody makes that. But what we did with there were two teams divided, and we sourced, as in today's terminology, you would say we sourced our purchases from the local bakery. We had those patties and paws, and we purchased them from outside the school, right to Gali ke bahar, and we sold them in the canteen to small kids of under 5th standard. Now, what we understood from that activity was we did make a margin of 342%, if I remember, and we won that activity. But what we understood that time, first thing was target customer. We knew that Panchvi ke niche ka koi banda, hum log usko, even if we force them a bit, they will take that. For 5 rupees a bun, it's no harm. And even we are able to convince those small children also. We were able to go in the canteen. We did some shows. We did some comedy and everything. We even tied up with the canteen manager. At that time, there was a lady. So she helped us out, at the lunchtime, you could come and sell those things. So that was the first step towards entrepreneurship that we took. And such activities, I don't know if they're still prevalent in our school, but if they're not, then they should be there. Then they really help. They really help the person to get a slight amount of business acumen at a very young age, tender age.
Right. Yeah, I remember that thing because I was one of the students who purchased it. So yeah, so I remember it. So
Aman, good product, don't worry.
Yeah. So Aman, if I ask you the same questions, what are your opinions on that? Like, how can a student develop all of these skills?
So I believe entrepreneurship really is a people's thing. When two businesses interact, more than the businesses, a huge deal. Why? I talk about the most complicated business arrangements. I talk about the most complicated business deals. The biggest of the biggest $1 billion deals, more often than not, they fail, not because it's suddenly not financially viable or whatever, because when someone does the math of buying or selling a business or product, they've done the basic groundwork already. Otherwise, they wouldn't have moved to the stage where they start sharing money. More often than not, why business deals fail is because the people don't match with each other, right? So it's more often than not, I would say entrepreneurship is about how well you handle other people who are not from your tribe. From your tribe would be people from within your company, right? And largely people from within your company would follow a similar vision and mission that you've set for your firm. But how you manage people, from the other business who are not speaking the same tongue as you, who are not from the same country, the same continent, who don't come from the same socio-political, socio-economical background as you. So all of these things matter. And then, of course, like Shanam very correctly pointed out, entrepreneurship, I believe, is a leadership sport. And leadership in itself is a contact sport, right? You can't win a contact sport without looking someone eye to eye and, calling them out for what it is and giving them instructions clearly, brief, precise, and getting your things done your way. Which is why leadership is a very, very important thing that kids can learn in school. And frankly, I say it very often. And of course, Nirbi, you've been a part of GEAAA, and everyone who's been a part of GEAAA, all of you know this, that in all the events I say this, I'm proud to call myself a product of GEA, because my first instance with leadership started when I was in school and I was deputed to go to MUNs, Model UN conferences from my school. I was asked to represent my school in declamations, a lot of these debate competitions, whatever XYZ. And of course, I was not good at it because I was just starting out, and I was a fresher and I was still learning the ropes, getting the hang of it. But that's how I started my path on leadership. And then I joined the school's prefect team as a house captain. And all of these things really mattered a lot, because here as the house captain, I'm talking about the most basic instances, but you're preparing for the Independence Day March, and Atharveda at that point was leading the cup. I really hope they're still leading. I'm Atharveda in blue forever. So like the color of my shirt. But so when I was house captain, and we were we won the house shield, we won the house cup, and we had to lead. And leading the Independence Day March past in front of the chief guest, at that time was the MLA of our district, meant that you needed to be the best, right? You needed to display your school spirit in the best way possible. And we were a bunch of many young kids, and I was maybe in the 8th or 9th grade. And all my fellow, Atharvedaites at the March Past team were maybe 5th, 6th, 7th grade. They were much younger than me. Of course, we didn't match. Our generations didn't match. Our words didn't match. The way we talk didn't match. So how do you come together as one, to get your show on the road and make sure it's the best March Past there is? And of course, there's always your second in command, people that you can count on. Your head boy, your head girl, your sports captain, your vice captain, whatever that is. But eventually you are the one who leads the show, right? I was the one holding the flag in the front, up high and proud. So what I did is, because of course we all have the uniform. That's the most unifying factor, that you all see someone in blue, you're from Atharveda. That's something there. But we tied ropes and bamboo stick to each of the students in the file. So there were 4 or 5 students in a file, and we tied ropes and bamboo sticks to all the students in one file. And we did the march past together for almost 4 or 5 weeks. Every day, I'm sure you guys remember that now, after 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Every day till we got our steps right, till we matched it perfectly. And by the end of the 4th week, when we removed all the bamboo sticks, we didn't need them anymore, because we got to the right state. So what I'm trying to impress upon you is that my idea of innovation, of creativity, of being on field, getting things done, comes from the experiences I had in school. So take initiatives, do things your way, try to be as creative as you can, because I call the school a sandbox pit. The sandbox pit is something that you can go nuts with. You can simulate your own things. You have a protective umbrella. You've got teachers, your principal, your faculty, your seniors to guide you. So you can make mistakes more often. The stakes are much lower. If you're an actual entrepreneur who's running a business and you start making mistakes one after the other, it's very important. Failing is important. I'll come to that later. But those mistakes cost money, time, and maybe someone's life. I'm a helicopter rescue pilot, right? And the first time that I've ever flown a rescue flight, my commander told me, I was kind of down that day. I mean, I had a headache. So I walk into the cockpit, I tie my seatbelt, and I say, I think I've had a bad day this morning. And my commander says straight out to me that, Captain, rescue pilots can't afford to have bad days. It's as simple as that. You get out there and get things done. And those are some of the philosophies that I've learned by just being there. As a kid, I was very, very young. So that's what I try to impress upon children as well, that make mistakes, fail more often, and do this in school, do this in college. So you get to learn. And so by the time you're a professional and someone tells you, an investor tells you, this might be wrong or this might be right, you can say proudly, I have experience. I know what is right or wrong because of the things that I've done in the past. Of course, the factors are different, but that's what I'd like to impress upon more, that I think school gives you that opportunity. So participate in more things. I think broaden your horizons is a very important aspect of going through school and college life. you might think you are great at this, right? But I used to think I was great at aerodynamics and aircraft design because that's all I used to do as a kid. I used to draw aircrafts on the back of my notebooks. And if any faculty members are here from 𝐴𝐴, they can attest to that 100%. But as I went through college, I realized I'm much, much better at other things. I'm much better at flying. I'm much better at doing many other things than just aircraft design. So if I would have stuck to my, my instincts when I was maybe in the 3rd or 4th grade, I wouldn't have ended up where I am today. Had I not taken the risk of exploring myself, of putting myself out there and being ready to fail. And I think that's the best part about social media as well, because I'm pretty sure all of you are on like Instagram and Facebook. And if you guys have gone through my Instagram, I'm sure a lot of them have, that I quite a lot of times I keep posting things about things that I fail at very badly. I mean, I'll try picking up the violin, I'll try playing it, it'll be horrible, it'll sound like rats are dying, but I'm proud that I tried something new. And of course, you don't have to be good at something when you start something new. It's only with time that you get better. But I'm proud of doing that, and that's what I want to impress upon everyone. That don't be afraid of trying new things and failing at it. Let the world laugh at you all they like, but at least you are 5 minutes of a violin player more than the person watching your Instagram story. So I guess that counts for something. So yeah, I think that'd be my input.
Right. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And I really like the last part you said about, your 5 minutes, this thing. It was a good thing. So Sharanam, so are introverts, is it true that introverts have a hard time being an entrepreneur? And if yes, what should we do, like as introverts, to break out of our shell?
See, honestly, introverts, I feel, may have a slightly harder time in marketing, but that definitely does not mean that they cannot be as good an entrepreneur as somebody who speaks a lot, or is very outgoing, or is very social, or more social than what you are. As I said, in the marketing, because in a business, ultimately you are selling something. So selling something, most of the times it requires interactions, and the common perception of introverts is that they are not very interactive. So that is one place where they could have a slightly, hard time. But definitely, these even somebody who you thought was an introvert a few years ago, they could have learned on the go. They could have learned to interact. They could have learned their own skills. I mean, skills are all about polishing them over time. So definitely, a person who is an introvert can be a much bigger businessman, or at least not less than somebody who's very outgoing. And I feel, yes, that's all.
Okay. Okay, so Aman, I wanted to ask, like, what are the subjects which are important for this field? Like, if you had to, choose subjects like for your further studies, etc. I mean, which subjects would you say are important?
Okay, so that depends on the kind of field you are in. For example, I'll just talk about being a techpreneur, because I'm a techpreneur, and I feel absolutely one of the most important factors that guarantees success of your firm and you as an entrepreneur is whether or not you're a subject matter expert in the field that your company is in, right? For example, my company makes missiles and rockets, and if I was not a subject matter expert in missiles and rockets, if I didn't score well in these subjects in college, starting a company in this space wouldn't have been as easy. And I'm not saying that it's been easy in any sense of the word, but people say, you can always hire people to do things for you. You can always hire a CA, you can always hire a finance guy, you can always hire an engineer or whatever. Let's say if you're starting an accounting firm, right? And if you're not an accountant yourself, it'll become very difficult, because not only your clients, but just let me say it out loud for everyone. I don't know if anyone here has entrepreneurship experience in the participants, but the client can see right through you. Don't ever think that the client is stupid and they don't understand whatever you're throwing at them. At the first instance, maybe for the first 5 minutes, you can sail through with any kind of fact that you throw at them. But if you don't know the subject you're talking about, it can become very, very evident. So when I was, let's say I started in 2014-15, I started with a lot of unmanned tech. I got into explosives, high energy materials, rockets and missiles and satellites. And now then I decided, okay, what's the next step for me in 2017-18 when I was reevaluating my company's financial statements. I was just going through things and I was thinking of scaling up, of expanding and moving into different arenas. And I thought to myself, okay, next step is to putting things into space. Let's start making rockets that instead of pointing down, they point up. They actually go into orbit instead of hitting an enemy 300 kilometers away. So I thought, okay, I needed a lot of space expertise. I've studied space in college, but that's a BTech level thing. If tomorrow I'm competing, if I'm going to ISRO with a proposal, or if I'm sitting in front of the Prime Minister and giving, a presentation on what the country can do in terms of space, if I don't know space myself, I might get kicked out of that room. And with the Prime Minister, you only get 7 minutes of a total meeting. So I thought to myself, no, I need some level of knowledge, some level of expertise before I get into it. And of course, either you start a job, you join a company, learn the ropes, and that might take a long time. I thought, okay, screw it, let's go to grad school. I picked out Purdue University, where Neil Armstrong is an alum. So Neil Armstrong is actually my super senior. And I said, let's get into astronautics. So I worked hard. I got everything in order. I went to college to study exactly what I needed to study. Now, with an astronautics degree, you can study everything under the sun. You can study biology, you can study chemistry, you can study weather sciences, global navigation. And I picked out those very particular subjects that will be required for me to excel my business, for me to grow my business. Because at the end of the day, my priority was coming back and, growing and scaling up. Because that's the whole reason I decided that I needed to move to another country and start another degree while parallelly maintaining a career and a job in a company. Because it was a difficult step, as you can imagine. It's a very tough thing to do, but I went ahead with it anyway. Now, of course, a couple of years of doing that, and I cleared the NASA interview. I got a job offer at NASA after doing a couple of projects with them, and that was one of the most difficult things to do, was to leave the NASA offer and come back to India. And of course, the only thing that made it easy was that I knew that I'm going to contribute to my country more than I can contribute anywhere else in the world. But the ethos of that remained the same, that the reason why I'm doing something is I needed technical knowledge to be a subject matter expert in my field, so that when I'm faced with competition, there is no one in the world, or at least in my immediate presence, who can shun me down for simply lack of technical knowledge. And I feel that's where a lot of my personal confidence comes from. You talked about being introvert and extrovert. I'm an ambivert. I'm an extrovert when it comes to government dinners and banquets and stuff like that. But I'm an introvert when it comes to house parties. I don't talk to a lot of people. I'm very shy. I'm actually pretty insecure, and there are things that I'm dealing with all my life, and that's just who I am, and that's something I've agreed to, as an individual. But yes, when I walk into a room to give a business presentation about the subject topic that I'm going to discuss, I am walking with the confidence that no one can beat me in terms of talking, in terms of giving that talk. So I think that's what's important. Figure out where you want to go. Figure out where your target is in the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 35, 40 years, and focus on those subjects. Be good at that stuff. A lot of people say marks don't matter. And of course they don't in the long run. It doesn't matter how much you score, but it does matter how much you score in the subject that you're going to start a business in, because that'll change your perspective about everything. And of course, Shanam is a CA, and I like to mention that anecdote because I used to have an accountant. I still do have accountants in my firm, and I didn't understand the kind of jobs they do because it seems very complicated. But I'm like, okay, if you can maintain my Excels, I'm okay with that, right? Because I was focused on building tech until as I was going through my MBA, I had to study accounting because it's a very important part of an MBA school. And once I went through the accounting class, I came back and hugged my CA because I was like, wow, man, the kind of things you do magic with on an Excel screen. Like I can never fathom the kind of magic that you guys do. But yeah, you develop newfound respects as you learn to broaden your horizons and start getting into different things. I knew zero about finances. I was a very base level, finance guy until I studied finance as a part of my MBA. And I realized, okay, there's a lot that you can do if you are good at math, if you're good at that kind of math, of course. I'm great at calculus. I'm great at Newtonian, Einstein's theory of relativity and stuff like that. But yeah, I might suck horribly at basic accounting, credit and debit. But yeah, I realized that, there are some things that you need to learn. Eventually, if you're going to file tenders worth 1,000 crores, 3,000 crores, you need to understand government processes. you need to understand regulations and laws that restrict your business or allow you to grow your business in a certain direction. So you need to have a good understanding of the law and law of the land. I mean, when I say law to a lot of people, a lot of young kids, please stop watching Suits and thinking that that is what law is. No, that is not. That's that's called merger and acquisition. It's a very tiny part of law. If you really want to learn about law, start reading textbooks, start following Instagram pages that talk about these things, Indian law, because eventually you're going to be starting and running a business in India. So it's important that you know what the laws and rules of this place are. For example, I heard one of these kids a couple of weeks ago at another one of these events like these saying, okay, but if I'm in court and will there be a jury, what will they do to me? I'm like, no, that's jury systems in the US. That's something you see in the movies that doesn't happen in India. So it's very important that we start influencing kids at an early age about at least spreading awareness about Indian law and regulation. So I think those are some of the things that you need to know.
Right. Sharanam, is economics an important subject for an entrepreneur? So should you focus on eco and even law, because I think there are tax laws, etc. when you do CA as well, right? You learn about it. So as Aman said, law is also an important subject. So are these two subjects pretty important? Can you pursue it?
You actually reminded me of an anecdote. There was one of our faculties called Miss Chitra Bhasin. She was an economics teacher. And there was once in my 12th, I actually went ahead and went on to select an 8th subject instead of the common 7. And I thought, okay, why not? I could do some extra work. I could learn something about economics. Also, my parents always said that if you're in the commerce field, you should be at least decent at economics. So I asked her. I attended her classes over the term, and at the end, I also wanted to give an exam. So she liked that spirit, and she said, "Okay, you give an exam after hours. Not obviously, I couldn't sit with the other batch members. So I wrote that exam and everything. I gave her back the paper. I just told her one thing, ma'am, if I pass, you do show me my paper. If I don't, please do not tell me. Till date, she's never contacted me about that. So economics is one thing. I feel, yes, see, if I talk about from an academic point of view, you should have knowledge of economics. You should have a knowledge of law, as Aman said, law of the land. Because really, I really agree with you. People looking for juries in a courthouse is actually so Suits type. So, you should know the law of your land. Eventually, over the course of your business, getting an education like Aman did, it's a much bigger advantage. But if you do not also, over a period of time, you will have to learn it, or somebody else will help you guide it. You will hire people to do it for you. But at the end, when the decision comes that when 3 of your 4 of your legal team members are sitting in front of you and they give you 3 options, so we can do this, this, or this. You cannot say that, okay, do whatever you like. You have to make that decision. And if you do not understand what they are saying, even at least 60-70% also, then your decision has a lot of very high probability to go wrong. So what I feel is always have a specialization, because without a specialization in your business, you should have at least one. Now for me, I was a chartered accountant. I studied my chartered accountancy over a period of time. And I cleared it surprisingly, but yes, I did. Now, I am in a business which is in FMCG and textiles. As a finance or CFO, yes, I'm the CFO. You can call me the CFO, CEO of my company, because I am the whole and soul of my company. But finance being my specialization, I can always have an upper hand on what I do with my company's business, cash flow management, fund flows. Even I have to go through the company law that is going on in the country right now, how to tackle the GST issues, how to go through the tax issues. I have an upper hand on those things. But on the other hand, I will also tell you one thing. I never learned marketing. I never did an MBA in marketing. I never knew anything much about marketing profession. But over a period of 5 years, the business that I am in, we are providing last mile connectivity to MSMEs who want their product to reach the retail network of the smallest cities. So we have right now in northern India, I have warehouses in 2 locations. One is in Amritsar and one is in Chandigarh. So we are directly catering to 6,000 retail counters every day, and 60,000 retail counters indirectly in Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir and Uttarakhand, and Chandigarh as well. So this I learned on the go. I made a lot of mistakes. The one big thing was coming from a textile background where each contract would be of say 10 crores or 15 crores, coming down to a sale of 5 rupees to a pan. That takes a big shift in your thinking. So some things, now this I did not learn in a school or a school of management or a school of marketing. That I learned hardcore in the field when I myself also went and sold a product to somebody like a kirana store wala or a wholesaler or a dealer or a distributor, the entire chain of FMCG that goes on. So again, I say you be the jack of all but a master of one. So that's what you have to be as an entrepreneur, jack of all, master of one, but at least one.
Right. So what are the common obstacles an entrepreneur faces? Saranam.
I feel हम एक हिंदी में कहावत कहते हैं भूखा बिजनेस कभी चल नहीं सकता, या इवन हम कहते हैं भूखे पेट तो भजन भी ना होए. A business, firstly, you have to identify what are your limitations, your resources, and your strengths. If you're unable to find out or identify these three, then I think at some point your business will go through a lot of trouble, a lot of choppy waters, and you will not be able to come out of it well. What I feel the common obstacles in a business are, there's one thing that is finance, which is one of your most important resource. There's manpower management and the inability to make a quality product within an acceptable price band of your target customer. You can make a very good product sitting at home, putting up maybe a small machinery or even a big factory. There are a lot of products in the market that are they're not able to market them to a large audience because that price band as well as the acceptable quality, they don't have a balance of that. So that is one very big issue, that if you're not able to get out a quality product with an acceptable quality and an acceptable price range, then you will suffer a big obstacle in your business. Second thing is the finance. What as a businessman in my own business, I keep a very close watch on my cash flows. At no point should my liquidity be so tight that if, for example, if there is a very urgent payment that needs to come up, I'm striving for where should I get the resources to make that payment. That as a business is very, will not give you a good reputation in the market. And you do, as an entrepreneur, if you're entering a market, you need that reputation, you need that strength. That okay, however big or small you are, at least your cash flows are intact, you make your vendors payment on time. Other day, I was reading an article from Safe Express, the CEO of Safe Express, Pramod Jain, I believe. In this pandemic time, Blue Dart suffered a loss in the last 2 quarters. I think DHL, there's another one, Tracon was suffering a loss, but Safe Express was making a big profit. And in his interview, the CEO said that, on June 30th, if I owe somebody certain amount of rupees, at July 31st, I owe the world nothing. Their main focus, they are dependent on the vendors. I mean, that customer is king philosophy today, it does not hold entirely true. You are as much dependent on your vendors as your customers. So if your vendors lose support, because you cannot keep investing in assets, you cannot keep investing in equipment, you cannot keep investing in infrastructure. You hire people for it, you hire agencies for it, even from your warehousing business as similar as I have. The equipment itself, nobody is investing in equipment today. It's all outsourced. It all comes at a rental. It all comes at an operational charge. Sale and lease back is the new outsourcing thing. So vendor network, keeping your vendors intact, that is one big thing, and that depends on cash flow. Your vendor will always be with you if your payments are good. So that is one very important thing that is a financial resource. The third thing I see that many people struggle with is the manpower management. Often we say self-employment becomes a trap when you pay people to do a job, and in the end you realize you end up doing it along with them. And
Right.
as in my opening comments, I said that as an entrepreneur, as the founding member of your business, your time is costly. You have to do the bigger load pulling. So you cannot be even though I'm a CA, I don't do any of my accounting on my own. I have a team for it. I have my people for it. I only get involved when it is required, not in the day-to-day business. I check the key parameters of my business and I keep going with it. So these are the three obstacles which I think every entrepreneur could face: is finance, manpower management, and in the end, it's your not able to make a sufficient quality product within an acceptable price band.
Yeah, right. That does make sense. Yes. So there's a question in the chat box. I mean, there are two questions. So there's one question which says how to distribute or your money, like your earnings, between the co-founders. Like how is the ratio supposed to be? Could you address this, please, Aman?
Okay, that's that's I think the waste question to me. I don't have a co-founder, but yeah, because I've read a lot of philosophies based on that. There is a certain understanding between co-founders when you start a company. So of course that has to be respected. Whatever share percentage you've agreed upon as and when you begin. In any case, when you register a company, you have to mention your paid up capital and the kind of shareholding distribution pattern. So that I think in itself is a big way of saying this happens and that happens. Or in many cases, especially some of the bigger brands, when they started off and they had just maybe 3 or 4 on board, the person who bought in the bigger project out of the 3 would take a larger part of the commission. So that's number one. But number two, which I feel is a more, I think it's a better way of addressing. I was at a government function a couple of months back, and a similar question was being asked to the board where I was on the panel, and someone asked me that young student, maybe in college, said, I'm referring to Jeff Bezos and the whole controversy around Jeff Bezos, that Amazon employees aren't paid well, but Jeff Bezos has net worth of XYZ billion dollars or whatever. Why are CEOs paid more than their employees, or why are CEOs paid more than certain other members of the top management? And then of course, being a CEO myself, I'm pretty sure it was a direct attack at me, but then not defending any one person in particular, but the idea is that the individual that takes the maximum financial liability of a company has to be paid more, because I mean, an employee is not losing sleep over the fact that tomorrow I might not have to pay salaries to my people. And COVID was the biggest proving point of this time over the last 1.5 2 years, that all companies faced this kind of punch, the COVID punch, and all companies were going through a tough time. And a lot of entrepreneurs had to decide whether they should pay salaries now or later, or they should cut salaries or not pay them entirely. And I was faced with that same kind of question, and that's what I thought to myself, that no matter what happens, and it's okay if I don't get my salary, and that's completely fine. That's the first thing I chopped off. But the idea is that there are a lot of people, especially drivers and low-income households, who are completely dependent on the salary that I pay them. So if they don't receive that paycheck that month, they might not have food on the table the next day, which is a direct risk to their life. I mean, keeping aside medical issues and problems and all of that. So I mean, I had to think on my feet and get, I started the portable oxygen can thing, the distribution network. And of course, I was doing it for free for almost a year, that no one knows of, that I was supplying to government hospitals and stuff like that. But then I realized I need to put a price tag to it, so that enough that it doesn't hurt the public, enough that it doesn't look like I'm war profiteering in a crisis, but enough that I can pay salaries, the basic amount that I can put, the most basic of the basic, without any profit or whatever. And that's the reason where equitable wealth distribution, the concept of equitable wealth distribution, comes into place. And you have to note that I didn't say equal wealth distribution, I said equitable. And equitable and equal, the difference is that equity is a direct reflection of the kind of efforts you've put in, the kind of mental load that you can take, if I have to be crass that way. And like Sharnam said, the fact that we have these dreams and we don't sleep over a lot of these stressing factors, that's because of that. If the company shuts down tomorrow, the worst person is going to be hit as the co-founder and the CEO. And because that's our job, that's the very basis why we are placed at the CEO position, is to make sure that the company doesn't shut down or it does well in certain projects or whatever. So when it comes to wealth distribution between top management, you've got these slabs already decided by the board. In certain bigger companies, like I would say SEBI regulated companies, companies that are doing a lot of direct government work, PSUs or whatever, the government and its regulatory bodies decide the wealth distribution in the top management, and their salaries are capped at that level, that you can't play around with much. But if you're a smaller company, it's very, very important that there is a level of trust with your co-founder. You can't just pick a co-founder from the street. You need to be very, very careful, I think. And if you are attempting to start a business, let me tell you, your choice of co-founder will be the biggest and the toughest and the smartest choice you will ever make in your life, because that will determine 100% of the happiness that comes into your life, until a point that you get married. Then it's just maybe 1%, but you get what I'm trying to say, that eventually it's important that these parameters are set much, much, much beforehand. Before you initiate your first contract, before you sell your first product, before you even develop anything on the floor, it's important to have an understanding between you and your co-founders that come hell or high water, on the best of days, we'll all share profits, we'll all have fun. But in the worst of times, when the company is not earning money, who gets paid first and who gets paid what? That is important to know much, much beforehand.
Right. So there's another question about how to get over the imposter syndrome, which is the dark side of entrepreneurship right now. So would you like to address that, Sharanam?
Yeah, so if I read correctly, it's related to the dark side of entrepreneurship as to how does one get over the imposter syndrome. There's also another question, I think, which is similarly related as to about the piracy of a product, which when you make it, it's a good product, but you don't market it well. But when a bigger company takes it over and they market it, it becomes a big hit with the customers and you don't get the credit for it. So regarding both these questions, see, I feel that is one of the, as the questionnaire Sagar Batra rightly pointed out, it is the dark side of it. There are, if you take India, there are 135 billion people. There are more than, I think, there must be at least double the amount of products that are in the market. Never think that the idea that you got is not possible for somebody else to get. There are things like the opportunity that you have, the resources that you have, the luck factor. As much as you say destiny and all, no, but when they say that you start getting luckier when you work harder. So there are a lot of things and factors that go into if your product could be a success and maybe when somebody else does it or a bigger company does it. Today, there is an example of Amazon. I read somewhere, Amazon has the power of data. So what they do is in America also, and I probably in India also, that they've come out with an Amazon Basics category, if you ever noticed. What they do is, in a particular category of, say, ovens, there was an artificial intelligence innovated oven in US. That oven was a good hit amongst the customers. But since Amazon had the data, what they did was they made an exact copy of it with maybe certain improvements or changes. And that product went on to become an even bigger success. And it ate up the entire market of that particular oven product, which was originally made by another company. Of course, there are legal fights, there are patents wars and everything that go on. But if you're starting on a very small scale, you're always prone to it. What you can do about is, if in all practicality, I will say, if you have the resources to fight out that, if you have the resources to fight that out, and the courage to fight that out, you should fight it out. But what happens is, if you're just a startup and without any kind of massive funding from maybe say Tiger or Sequoia or Tencent or SoftBank, it's often that yes, your product could be imposted by somebody else, and it goes on, and there's as much as you can do about it as you can. Now, for example, in my business, there is a particular kind of lollipop that I make in candy, in the confectionery sector. If that lollipop is actually made by 20 other different companies, It's not a very extraordinary product. It's a good quality product at a good price level. What happens is I have my own marketing force. I have a sales force of over 100 people now. They are pushing the product into the market, and it's a constant war. So when you are starting a business, you should be prepared for such contingencies. Think about it. You don't just keep thinking about this and somebody else will copy your product. If your product is good, rather take it as a compliment that somebody is copying it. But it is a hassle. You have to get over it. इस चुनौती का सामना आपको करना पड़ेगा. And in the end, what I feel in my sector, or if I can say about my sector in the FMCG, no kind of TV advertisement would do as much as your actual legwork in the market. Your reach to each and every counter. जैसे मैंने बोला, एक पान वाले से लेके एक सुपरमार्केट तक आपकी सेल्स फोर्स को पहुंचना होगा, and then they will market their product. And if your product, आपके प्रोडक्ट में दम है, वो चलेगा.
Right. So moving on, we'll be talking about the experiences. Now, this is the best part, actually. So nowadays, you can hire mentors from the internet. There are a lot of financial gurus, helping you to grow your brand and everything like that. So would you recommend hiring one, Aman? If yes, how do you identify a good one from a fake?
Okay, so again, largely depends on the kind of industry you're in. Let me just talk to you about my experience only. I'm from defense and aerospace, and the defense lobby is very small. So your financial gurus who say, itna sale ho jayega, utna sale ho jayega, and we'll come on board and we'll make it 100x and all. First, it's important to know what their experience has been in this field. Defense is not easy. Let me tell you, the incubation time is almost 5 to 7 years. Contract execution takes another 1.5 years. So by the time you are a decade old, you've maybe just executed a couple of contracts, which are maybe low ticket or whatever. So any guru or expert or mentor, it's always great to have them on board, but my suggestion is always put them against a success fee. So what is a success fee? Is that they usually take about 8 to 10% of the equity of the company, and they say, my job is to open doors for you. My job is to introduce you to different kind of clients, maybe make the impossible possible. For example, I will give you an example. I'm not going to name anyone. Of course, I can name my competitor because I'm not telling you the contract or where I was executing it. It was Reliance, right? And Reliance is a giant. It owns the country. So going head to head against them, and of course because it's a niche technology, high technology field, and because I have the knowledge and experience to back it, we were competing head to head, and Reliance got a partner from abroad who would build that product for them, while I made and manufactured that in India, simply because my final thesis at Purdue from my astronautics degree was based on that very product. So it was a technologically speaking, head-to-head competition. And now the impossible task was to talk to the higher ups in the, whoever is deciding the technical authority, and getting a door opened to, go actually meet them. Because they said, we are not interested to meet a smaller company. What's this private startup and, whatever. They don't have backing. They don't have political backing. They don't have huge financial backing, deep pockets and stuff like that. So of course, we came across a lot of these gurus who say, we are X Reliance and X this and X that, and we can help you do this, help you do that. And my condition was very simple. I said, I know my worth. I know what I'm capable of. I know what the product is capable of. If you can get the door opened and get them to meet me, I'll proceed from there. But it will be based on the success that you deliver. So if you don't deliver success on the parameters that I've mentioned, I'm not going to pay you. So that's just my advice and that's what happened. If I pay them upfront and they don't deliver, they can always say, XYZ factors failed. But that gives them an incentive to work towards you, because money is assured at the end of the day. So I say, if you succeed, I'll pay you. If you don't succeed, nothing's going to happen. That's just my way of putting it. And of course, it comes down to how well you negotiate it. But for that, you need to have a certain level of confidence upon yourself as well to start off with.
Right. So the idea of, giving a success fee is a better option than giving equity in your firm. Yeah. Okay. So a question for Shara now. So what was your experience while growing your own brand?
My experience while growing my own brand. See, initially, I'll just give you a brief about how my business started. I had my entire career, I did my chartered accountancy in Mumbai, considering my textile business also in Mumbai. So I rather never expected to get out of Mumbai, I mean, rather based out of Mumbai. Right now, I'm in Amritsar. I also have, as I said, my warehouse in Chandigarh also. I have a place to stay over here. But it's always before you start your own brand. I feel what the advantage I had was I was into the distributorship of FMCG goods first. Now there's after Haldiram, the second biggest company in Namkeen, Bikano. If anybody knows Bikaner Wala Foods, it's very popular in northern India. So we started with the distribution of Bikano in 2016 in only Chandigarh area, where we were probably reaching about say 500 counters in a day. Slowly we gathered our experience from there. As I said, the shift from a 10 crore textile contract to a 500 rupee namkeen bill, that shift, that was one thing that I learned. After that, we also got into, we grew more. We ended up reaching about 6,000 counters directly. We started our business in right during the pandemic in July 2020. I started my warehouse in Amritsar, which is also a very good potential town of a variety of people, a good market, good target market. And from here, I'm catering to other states, Jammu, Kashmir and all. So the initial step in my business, what I had was, I started with the distribution of other brands. So once I got a hang of it as to how these then getting into the confectionery sector, getting into the health and sanitization sector, after I got the experience from those, then in 2019, I started my own brand, which is a confectionery brand called Delmos. We sell candies, jellies, lollipops, namkeens, fitness products, fitness foods, granolas, etc. So those are the kind of, I mean, that's the kind of experience that I took first. And then I entered into my own brand. Now, when I started my own brand, the initial challenge was the first and foremost challenge that any new person, however old you are, you will get is, who are you? आपका तो नाम ही नहीं सुना कभी. आप कहाँ से ये product बेचने आ गए? I'll give you an incident. When I started in Amritsar, the first counter that I went to, as a part of my own experience, they said, "Sir, I काम करना, अगले हफ्ते आना. पहले हम देखेंगे कि आप आते हो regularly कि नहीं." You have to become a common face in the market first. That's the biggest challenge for a brand. You have to find the right set of vendors. Now, as I said earlier, customer is king philosophy. I think today it's very much less valid than what it was maybe at the time of our parents were doing business. It's an entire chain, it's a channel partner network. If your vendor is not good, I will not be able to sell a good product, however big a marketing team I have. And similarly, if my vendor is good, I will not be able to take that product to the customers without a good marketing team. So the first question is who are you? That question needs to be addressed. That will be addressed purely in my sector through legwork. Continuously go to that particular counter. हमारे यहाँ इसमें कोई बहुत बड़ी deals नहीं हो जाती हैं. That comes on to a very later stage. Like somewhere like ITC or somebody, they might be finalizing a vendor, an entire factory working for them. We are small. So when you are small, you have to compromise a bit, not on the product, but everything else. Sometimes when I'm setting up my own brand, my own manpower, my own sales team, they feel demotivated. That's now, for example, confectionaries. आज की डेट में स्कूल सारे बंद है. I always say my entire customer is sitting in the house right now. but we do have to sell our product. So my team comes up to me, they're demotivated. There are schools, the retailers are not taking up our materials, they're not taking our products, they're not placing them because there's no kids in the market. But still, during the pandemic, we were able to sell. Thankfully, I was able to bear the salaries of my employees. I was able to, not completely, but definitely a big pay cut. As you said earlier, the pay scale of an entrepreneur, you completely decided on your own. But the first one to take a hit will be that entrepreneur, will be that co-founder. That is what justifies him or her taking whatever kind of pay they are taking, and even being paid more than their other employees. So setting up a brand, that is one challenge of who are you, and also keeping your team motivated because you are new in the market. I also keep saying that you don't need to have a very extraordinary idea to run your business. You might as well have the will to run an ordinary business extraordinarily. In the distribution chain, there are a lot of unorganized sectors, there are a lot of unorganized people जो हम कहते हैं लाला business कर रहे हैं. They don't have that professionalism as to the service, because if you are servicing a brand like Mikano or Haldiram or ITC, their product is running on their own marketing force. What you have in your hand are two things: service. Now, I give a very big importance to next day delivery in my business, which in this industry, not every distributor will do. They are always very lax in that. कि चल ठीक है यार, order 3 दिन बाद दे देंगे market में, कोई बात नहीं. FMCG is a cutthroat place where you need to service your customers, and it depends on your customers will pay you an extra 1% or 2% if your service is good. The amount of finance, the amount of credit limits that you're giving to your customers do appreciate that. So when you're setting up a brand, you have to look at these things: your service, your recognition. You have to be present in the market. Initially, definitely, you will not be able to sell as much as you want unless your product is really very extraordinary, and there's nothing in the market like that. But it takes a lot of work as to being recognized in the market. Your team should be motivated because your sales people are your sales engines. They are the ones who are, कहते हैं ना, जो आपके पीछे जो बैकएंड में टीम काम कर रही है, उनका खर्चा आपकी सेल्स फोर्स निकाल रही है. Do not take them in हल्के में नहीं लेना उनको कभी भी, because they are in case of Aman, I feel, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, in your case you would be the sole, probably you or maybe another person would be getting the contracts for your defense and all. And but in my business, a 10,000 rupee or 20,000 rupee earning person is one who is building me a sale of say 1,200 crores or 1,500 crores. So that is one thing. When you build your brand, your sales team that you hire, they should have that motivation to go on, and you yourself should also be motivated. It's not easy, trust me. The dreams that we have, माल नहीं बिका तो क्या होगा, माल अंदर एक्सपायरी हो गया तो क्या हो गया, मार्केट से पैसा नहीं आएगा तो क्या हो गया. All these things, they really put you in a soup. So when you start your brand, these are the things that you have to counter, and that is my experience of it.
Right. So, focusing on the service and, building a goodwill and a community is very important as such. Okay, so I think Dhruv Bhartiya has a question for Sharanam. Dhruv, if you could unmute your mic and ask the question.
Yeah, hi, Sharanam. So I was referring to the third point you said regarding the difficulties entrepreneurs face. So, we at the alumni also, we're a small team. Now, we are not a proper entrepreneurship related team, or we're not a proper business organization. We're more for the voluntary, not-for-profit type of organization, which we do stuff for the students like this career guidance workshop. So let's say we have a team of around, we have members around 200, but out of that active members, let's say 50. Now out of those 50, in the end, only 5 to 10 of us majorly work, and the rest 40, they're very subtle in their work. So I wanted to ask, how, if you have any suggestion for us at the alumni, how can we improve our team management skills, or people management? How do we motivate them to work? Because in the end, of course, if you're not working for any benefit, and especially any monetary benefit, it becomes, you lack in your work because there's no point, you're not getting anything out of it.
There's one idea that I have for you as you're speaking. As you said, in your alumni, you have 200 members, out of which 50 are actively participating, and 10 or 5 of you are doing the majority of the work. So in that case, firstly, what I think is you need to find the correct motivation for your members. The 200 members that are part of your alumni, and out of those, the 50 core members, they are the ones that need to have the right motivation. That's the first thing. Now that motivation, I may not be able to guide you right now because I'm not actively involved in that particular set in your particular organization. You have to do that. So that difficulty is upon you. But as a matter of handling your team, I will not say manpower, your team, what you can do is, there must be definitely in probably every business, I feel, there are some tasks that do not require a deadline. There are some tasks that are bound by deadlines. So the first thing that you can do in your own team, your core team of 50 people, say, the tasks that do not require a deadline, or have longer deadlines and easier deadlines, considering the other kind of work you are also doing, your main occupation and their main occupations, you can you can allocate those non-deadline or soft deadline work to them. The core deadline work, you can handle them yourself. And end of the day, even as a non-profit organization, you are in a way an entrepreneur or a leader of your organization. So the leader of the organization has to have the core motivation and has to drive the entire process. So that is one kind of management which I feel, just by talking to you, I could figure out that if agar aap aisa karte ho, you may be able to achieve your deadlines better. It will be easy upon you as well, because you have a team of 50, but probably you may not be distributing or delegating works to the 50 of them properly. So that is one idea which I thought you should have. And in terms of promoting efficiency, use the help of technology. Today, being remotely, all of us are working remotely now. Work from home is a new thing. So why don't you, have some kind of a task manager software, or even use Google Forms or Google Sheets, very basic things which all of us are aware of it now. So to keep track of the tasks, you use some kind of basic technology, basic software, where you all 50 members are interconnected, and you all have a sense of what each other is doing and where are you heading as a team. Are you heading towards a goal on time or not? So it's like a community, because you can't keep calling up each and every person and getting the status of the work every time. Neither you have that time, neither they have the time to answer those calls. That is one suggestion.
Right, that makes perfect sense. Thank you so much. If Aman has anything to add, then I'd love to hear his views as well. He's been a more active part of alumni.
Yeah. For a long time now, I've seen the same things that we struggle with from my time in the alumni to, as advisor now. I think it's really comes down on us, Dhruv, and, the whole senior management and us as well, that when we do certain events, and of course we see participation of less than 20-25% of the total cohort, what happens after the event is more important, which is why when we did the first edition of GEAAA MUN, we hosted this special evening for just the team. We met separately, just the organizing committee, just the volunteers, and we celebrated them, right? It's important to kind of acknowledge the kind of work they've done. And of course, it's not easy if you take time out from your schedule. And maybe I'd like to put it this way. I was more active when I was in college, because I feel when I was in college, I had much more time on my hand than college students do now. Like college kids and school kids now are so bogged down with work and competition and just trying to be the best version of themselves, that even the little bit tiny amount of time they have is going in their social life, which is very much important. Like someone was asking me the other day, what should a 17-year-old be, at that, what kind of stage of life should they be at, and what they should be at 17. And my simple question was, the best thing that a 17-year-old could be at 17 is just be yourself. Just be the best version of yourself. Just be a kid, be a child I am 27 now. I feel I'm still a child, and I will always like to stay to make it that way. But kids are often taken out of that loop, right? So when they join the alumni, I think maybe just my opinion, but I really like to reiterate that this should be a fun organization. They should represent something that really gives them break from their hectic things that they do in life, and of course adding value in the process. Like, we help them learn about event management, we help them learn about putting things together, getting things done, from whiteboard, from design board to execution, and finally scaling up. We are good at that. So putting them on, joining them, having them, welcoming them on board, not discriminating between who can join, who cannot join, who can be a part. And we don't do that, of course. GEAAA has been great at that. There's something that we learn as 𝐴𝐴 kids first, that we have to be accepting and tolerating and open to anyone and everyone who comes our way. So we are good at that. But of course, the important thing is we need to acknowledge the kind of efforts they put in. Only once we actually show them that we are their organization first, that they are volunteers who help us build events together. But at the end of the day, the organization itself is serving the members more than they are serving their target audience or their group outside, or whatever that is. Our main target group is not the school. If we didn't exist, the school would function just fine. It's not like we're an essential part of the working of a school, but we are a great value add-on to the people who join us. But of course, we give certificates, we give experience points that really add value to your resume. But a resume is not everything that a school or college kid yearns and learns for. They like to have fun, they like to be a part of, and I say this very, very often. For me, I call it the F word. You have to be very careful while using the F word. It's called family. When you refer to an organization like a family, treat it that way. Give it that kind of importance, give it that kind of love and affection. So whoever joins in feels that they are welcome and open, and they can say anything and everything will be accepted. Of course, up to a certain level. We can't accept a lot of unparliamentary language and all that. But what I'm trying to say is that whoever comes in, make sure that if you're part of GEAAA, you should know that it's a safe space. You can come to us with problems, with headaches, no matter how big or small. We might not be able to solve it for you right away or 100%. We are not a very, very rich organization like other alumni of other colleges and institutions. But with the little amount of resources that we have, we make the best of it. And we do a lot of social service. We do a lot of social good. So there's anyone out there like me, because I joined GEAAA because I wanted to serve. I didn't join because I wanted a point on my resume. I've never made a resume in my life. But I wanted to join because it was a great place to do social service. It's just a bunch of, when I was joined in, just maybe 15 people led by Nirbhay. One phone call that we got to clean up the beach and we got to do it tomorrow morning. Are you in? And just all 15 say, yeah, we are in. We didn't have WhatsApp or anything back then. We just had like SMSs and phone calls, and we had the My SMS package where we would send out the SMS blast and stuff like that. But that's the reason why that 15 people on a Saturday where you had an India-Pakistan match would give all of that up, would give up their free time, just go to a beach, clean it without any social media, Instagram, just no excuse, just to do good social work. And that was the basis of it. Now, of course, so many years later, you've got the GEAAMUN, you've got these amazing events that you guys do, you've got Insight. So it's grown in scale and size, and the kind of events you do and kinds of value you add. So whenever you have a new person on board, I think 1 or 100 or 1,000, it might be, I guess by the time my kids and our kids actually join 𝐴𝐴, GEAAA would have been in maybe 500, 600 odd, just the working committee. So that's what I want to tell you guys, that whoever joins in, 1 or 100 people, the ethos will remain the same, that it's a fun place. You get to learn a lot. And I think it's the best place to grow and develop as a person. You can explore whatever you like. So I guess that's it.
Thank you so much. That helps
one more thing I would like to add to what I said earlier. On a more practical thing, what I feel sometimes that we lose as an organization of voluntary people working towards something. It's very easy and convenient to get complacent that, okay, there are other 25 people doing that work, so why do I need to? So you 10 people end up doing most of the work, who are actually concerned. And obviously you have your own professional lives, and as you go on, you might be able to spare lesser time for such activities, however good they are. So what I feel is one more thing, that when you use, as I suggested, use technology. the communication of your goal to your entire 50 core members and your entire 200 odd team, the communication of the final goal or the short-term goal of what everybody are working upon, not a very generalistic goal that we have to make GEAAA the best organization. Whatever is in hand, for example, Insight 2.0, your goal should have been communicated extremely clearly and to the deepest of corners of your entire 200 team. Only then they will have a sense of where they are heading, and then whatever tasks you delegate or distribute and you all keep working on, then it will make sense to them. They will be able to join the dots. That is one thing that I feel. Communication of your goal. They make a WhatsApp group, make a Skype group, make a meeting group where the title is say Mission Insight 2.0, or what I do in my sales team is Mission 25,000. So what Mission 25,000 means that each and every salesman has to sell goods worth 25,000 every day. So they get a hang of it that what the company wants from them, what the brand wants from them, what I want from them. So similarly, do some exercises that communicates your goal very well and makes your goal interesting as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Shahana. Thank you so much, Aman. That will help a lot.
Yeah. So moving on, if someone was starting a business, just starting out, what would be the first thing they think about, or first thing they do when they're starting out? Aman, what would be the whole thing?
So again, I think it depends on what stage of life you're in. If you're 40, 45 and you've just given up on a fancy manager job, or if you're leading a team already, you have sufficient experience and network, and then you want to jump into entrepreneurship, then someone who's starting a company is far more mature in that business phase of going about things, because they already have a network, so they might be thinking something very differently. But if you're a kid who's maybe right out of college, or maybe somewhere between school and college, or right in the middle of college, and you decided to become an entrepreneur, you got to figure out where the money comes from. Of course, you've got to know who your clients are, what are you going to do, learn the basics of the 5 forces and the Porter's pyramid, and whatever. I mean, XYZ, whatever jargons that you can possibly think of. Those are educational things that tools that help you navigate through your initial phase of starting out a business. But in the first few days, months, years, whatever, it's important to set these short-term goals that you want to achieve. And they might not have much to do with the long-term goal that you want to achieve, but the short-term goals are important. For example, when I started out, as an entrepreneur, and I realized that my heart lies in service, like I've said before. And the 3 sectors that I wanted to get into, I mean, it's something that I say very openly, that number 1 is defense aerospace. Number 2 is medical. I want to get into, research into fighting rare diseases, because I've personally lost friends and family to rare diseases. And number 3, I wanted to get into clean energy, because I believe that's the future. I believe that's where a defense company can potentially go from, developing technology that uses rare earth metals. So I've got these long-term projects in mind. And of course, I picked out defense and aerospace to begin with, because A, I'm not a doctor, and B, I don't have, my core area of knowledge and expertise is not on energy, whether renewable or non-renewable. So I thought defense and aerospace, because I just learned the subject. I started in 2015. I started my bachelor's in 2012. So I was just 3 years into my, defense and aerospace core knowledge. So I thought that is the best way to go forward. So I picked that out. And then I set certain goals for myself, that for someone who's getting into sales, for example, some of the most common thing that you can look at, let's say Zomato, when they first, or a Swiggy, when they first start, they say, my first target is 1,000 restaurants, or my first target is 1 lakh customers, right? So you got to work day and night to just hit your first target. So when you hit your first target, let's say a company like Swiggy hits 1 lakh customers, or 1 lakh subscriptions, or 500,000 downloads, or whatever, that factor you decide, that parameter you decide. Once you hit that, you sit with the team, see what went wrong, what went right, what works, what doesn't work. Do you need to go back to the design board, think the whole thing again? Let's say you estimated that you would get 100 restaurants within the first 90 days. And if you took 100 days to get that 100 restaurants, that's fine, because it's still within acceptable parameters. But if you took 6 months or 8 months or 9 months, 12 months to get to that first 100 restaurants, you're doing something wrong. So you would sit with your core team, with your founders. You would see what's going wrong, what's working right. In the couple of deals that really worked very well smoothly, you pick out the good parts of that deal. In deals that went horribly wrong, you pick out everything there, because you need to know exactly what went wrong. You rework the process, you take the good bits, you throw out the bad bits, you try again with the next 100. So you set 100, then maybe, okay, not 100, you set the next 500. How soon can you hit the next 500? Let's say a year. 12 months later, if you hit 500, if you're on time, on record, you've done well. You've learned from your mistakes, you know where you messed up, you know what worked right for you, and you stuck to that. So that's great. But at 500, that's not where the journey ends, right? That's just the beginning. So at 500 restaurants, you would still go back to the design board and you would say, okay, what can I do to refine this properly? Why did it take 12 months to go from 100 to 500? Why can I not do this in 3 months? Then maybe you look outside. Now, this is the time when you start looking at competitors, what they're doing, where they are. You start reading stories of companies that started out this young, this small. Yelp in the US is one of the biggest, F&B aggregators there are. So you go to Yelp, you read the stories of their founders, and you start picking out cues from there. And this is the time where you start relating with these things, what Shanam and I have been saying, that you don't sleep, you don't eat, you start having dreams, because this is where you realize you've started experiencing things that your peer group is not experiencing, right? You've given up on birthdays, on social parties, on social media entirely. You realize people start calling you crazy because in the middle of a party you get up and start typing out an idea that you just had. So all of these things are very normal. It's very normal to be taken out of a typical social circle, because maybe most of your other peer group is doing a 9 to 5, maybe they're working regular jobs, which is completely okay, which is great for them. But you're not part of that circle anymore. So when everyone's hitting a bar at 6:30 or 7 in the evening, at 6:30 or 7 in the evening is when your team meeting begins, reviewing what happened in the day, and goes on till 11 in the night. 11:30 you get free. That is when you're having your dinner, when everyone else is done with their parties. So there is a huge paradigm shift there, and you get the first taste of being a full-time entrepreneur. That it's not easy. It's not as luxurious and glowy and shiny as influencers like to show on Instagram, especially people who have trust funds that back them up, and which is why they live these kind of lives that they do. Got a lot of successful friends who are founders and co-founders of big companies, billion-dollar giants, and they still drive like an Alto. Like I drive an Alto. A lot of them drive an i20. And anytime you ask them, a lot of people do, and investors do, that you need to drive a BMW now, a Mercedes now, right? But here's the thing: someone who drives an i20 realizes what the value of mileage is, realizes what the value of a good engine is, because they saved that money on petrol. And that's how you know someone's good at running a business, because they've taken the brunt of spending their own money. Maybe I've gone bankrupt twice, so I understand what it means when it's your own buck. It's your own hard-earned money that goes into a business. So these are some of these things you learn initially, and you learn over time. I'm not saying you will learn this on day 1 or learn this on day 100. Maybe it'll take some people years to realize that a BMW and Mercedes is a non-performing liability. It's not an asset. It's a big elephant in your garage that takes almost 1 to 1.5 crores over its lifetime for maintenance, which is not a good idea, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't drive a car if you don't like it. Of course, it pleases you, go ahead, drive whatever you want to. Personally, I like flying, so I was never into cars anyway, which is a great deal. My parents never complain that I drive expensive cars. They do complain that I fly expensive helicopters. But but either way, jokes aside, that's what I mean to say, that these initial lessons are something that people learn no matter what kind of field and business that you're trying to build. But yes, over time you will try to mature over these things. So if someone comes to a seasoned entrepreneur and says, I find these amazing ad for these Air Jordans, these Nike Air Jordans that I found online, and they're worth $1,500, and this is a great investment, right? That entrepreneur will stop you right there. No, if you have $1,500 to spend it on a Nike stock on the stock exchange, and you'll realize the value of that in 3 years. The shoes in 3 years, of course, the minute Kylie Jenner posts a story with another pair of shoes, that the value of that shoe is gone. So it's not worth the right kind of investment. But yes, these are things that seasoned entrepreneurs learn over time. So I think anyone, when they start a business, that's the first step that you're going to jump into.
Yeah. So knowing your resources and planning it out, and then going with the trial and error method, like that is very important when you start out. So Sharanam, since you're a CA, how did that help you in your business? So yeah, what the professional course you did, how did it, help you, grow your business as such?
CA helped me immensely. As I said, jack of all trades but master of one. That is my one master. So, considering having done CA, I could understand the finance part much better. I could handle my own. I could actually guide my account stream towards it. So that is one big advantage. You can call me. I'm the director of my company, but I'm the CFO, CEO, whatever kind of operation chiefs you have. But having the knowledge of CA behind my back, and also I had cleared my CFA level 1. So rather that was much of a breeze. If you're doing CA, I feel the coverage that CA has in finance, law, cost accounting, audits, like for example, the audit taught me that an auditor is not a watchdog, but he's a watchdog, not an investigator. So it gave me that knack of being occupationally, you can say occupationally doubtful about things. So it's not that I don't trust my team, I don't trust them, but it gave me a knack of finding where that mistake could be. Often I used to see my father when he used to signing a paper. He used to sign a bunch of papers continuously, and suddenly at one paper he used to stop. And fortunately or unfortunately, there would be a mistake in that paper. So that's what experience, and that's what what my CA qualification helped me out is, with the knowledge of running the finances of my company completely, understanding the meaning, the importance of cash flow management, the kinds of statements you have. It helped me being organized in my finances, which not everybody is. They generally hire somebody else to do it, or they're dependent on people. I'm not dependent on anybody to go through the finances of my company, and I'm pretty confident about it. So that is how CA really helped me.
Yeah, so having that kind of professional, this thing gave you an edge over the others.
Exactly.
That way. So speaking about MBA, Aman, you have done MBA. So what would be the pros and cons of it, like doing MBA?
So I did an MBA just for the sake of it, honestly, very honestly. Not because I thought I needed it, or it was something very important for me. Let me before I get into that, let me tell you what an MBA is. An MBA, I mean, a person who's done an MBA is what I mean. MBA is, we call them chameleons, because an MBA can be placed into any business environment, any environment that is, doesn't matter what industry, what scale, size, what ticket price they're getting into, what is the paid up capital, what is the profit, earning, revenue, whatever. Their job is to transform that business. Their job, you give them a specific task that, okay, we need to expand our marketing, we need to expand our sales, we need to do this, we need to do that. An MBA will give you that. So an MBA as a chameleon will try to merge themselves into that environment, try to become experts of that field, and give you a solution for a problem that's thrown at them. That's the best that they do. And because I was doing a double degree, I was doing a master's in astronautics, which was my primary degree, and then I did an MBA along with it, parallelly, because I thought I needed a little bit more knowledge about things that I don't know of. For example, if I'm filing, like I said, I'm filing tenders and bids now, which are government bids, and government bids require a lot of extensive financial knowledge of how the banking sector in India works. Because I don't have a primary chartered accountant knowledge, or that's not my skill set. That's why I kind of merged myself into MBA. Let me try to look at what consultancy looks like. Let me try to look at what accounting, what finances, what marketing, what all of these little aspects of running a business looks like. And I realized something that one of my professors at my MBA school told me. He was an ex-Harvard guy, and he said, what you can learn from 6 months of running your business, you can never ever learn in a 2-year MBA course. Like it teaches you life, right? Running your own business with your own money teaches you about life. It teaches you what trust means. It teaches you what faith means. It teaches you, and MBA is never going to teach you how you can have self-confidence. When for example, you've not made a single sale, or you've just started out, and like Sharnam said, you're young, so no one knows you, and people think that you're wearing a diaper. And usually defense lobby, the defense industry, everyone's 40, 45 plus year olds, because these are people who've actively served in the forces, they've retired and then started their companies. So these people come with extensive knowledge of the kind of things they're working with. They've come with shining careers, 3-star, 4-star officers, and you're sitting in a room with them, giving a presentation and directly going head on with them. So everyone's going to treat you like a kid. They're going to treat you like you don't know anything until you open your mouth and then you shut them up, right? But the step before that, I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 months into actually starting doing presentations. The step before that, you need to have a certain amount of self-confidence, and MBA is never going to teach you that. So those are some of the cons of an MBA, that you don't go with the expectation that it'll make you an entrepreneur, it'll make you world-class. It will make you a problem solver. An MBA is just going to do that. It's going to show you how it's going to give you tools of solving a problem. And these are effective tools. There's no doubt about that. Some of the pros of an MBA is teamwork. Nothing teaches teamwork better than an MBA, because all your MBA presentations are teamwork. All the projects, assignments that you do are teamwork. The team might be sitting miles away from you. The team might be the partner sitting right next to you. But because everyone comes from a different sphere of life, I worked with architects, I worked with the chefs, I have worked with the people in the banking sector, and we were a team, and I'm an engineer. And 4 of us had to design a presentation on, Fitbits. So none of us were from that field. We didn't know anything about that field, but we had to give a problem for a solution for an active problem. So that's what MBA teaches you the best. It teaches you how to accept views from other people's perspective. And even though you might know a lot about a topic, but you have to be open to that idea that you might not know everything. And that is always the case. And I say this to everyone, I say to myself more than I say to everyone else, that I'm a student first. No matter, I'm not in college anymore, but I'm still a student. It is always good to learn, and no knowledge ever goes to waste. Like a small anecdote I can give you, because I'm talking about the MBA life and whatever. I had 3 months off between 2 semesters, and I didn't know what to do, because I was working, regular hours, and I had a couple of hours free in the night. I started taking up sign language, because I thought it's a great thing to learn. It's not like, I was not going to use it, but I thought it's great to just have a hang of it. Spent almost a month and a half in signing. American Sign and British Sign are 2 different languages. I took up ASL. So I learned ASL, I got the degree or whatever, all of that. And almost a year later, because my friends were telling me, this is, you're spending your time into things, that's, it's not related to your job or whatever. 6 months later, 6 to 8 months later, I think I meet an investor and we get talking, we do back-to-back meetings. It's great. And after the 4th or 5th meeting, he tells me his daughter is deaf. And I signed, oh, your daughter is deaf, to him. And of course, he is the father of his daughter. So the parents know sign. And he immediately understood it and he signed back. There's a big smile on his face, that the whole relationship with that guy went on so well. So, that's what I want to impress upon you, that no education ever goes to waste. Even if tomorrow you take up a bartending class, who knows, that might be the impressing factor for your future girlfriend. I don't know. I'm just giving you an example. No education will ever go to waste. So if you're deciding to do an MBA, go ahead. Might as well get it done before you start a company, because let me tell you, one of the biggest mistakes of my life, happiest mistake of my life, was doing a master's, an MBA, and running a company at the same time, and doing rescue flying. It was a nightmare. And I would not recommend it. But yes, that's my suggestion. If you want to do an MBA, go get an MBA.
Yeah, so it teaches you unique ways to solve problems, but in real life, it's obviously a little different.
Just to add what Aman was saying, your qualification is the knife, and your experience is the edge of that knife, and it will tell you how to cut smoothly and cleanly.
Right, yes. So another question is, if you had one piece of advice for an entrepreneur just starting out, what would it be, Sharanam?
In my case, what I would say is, if possible, and if the opportunity allows, start young. Because when you're young, there is much lesser things at stake. You have the ability to lose it. You can lose it once, like I just heard Aman said he went bankrupt twice. He's still here. He's on to another opportunity. He's on to another venture. And he has years to go ahead of him. He has that motivation. believe it or not, when you are young, you have thrice that amount of energy or 5 times that amount of energy than what you would be when you're maybe say 10 years ahead or 20 years ahead or 30 years ahead. Although you have KFC General Sanders, he started his business at 60. But these are very exceptional cases. We all like to hear about them, but it's not always possible with everybody. So if you want to get into entrepreneurship, try your hand at it when you're young, and see, and you at least have the courage to lose it once. What I say, whatever you put in, have the courage to lose it once, because then you will have not failed. You have started off from experience. And there is one एक शेर है जो मैंने अपने grandfather and father से inherit किया है. So I would like to read it out for everybody and for all the young audience that we have. लिपटता है चट्टानों से जब समुद्र का शबाब, दूर से मौजों के रोने की सदा आती है. दर हकीकत ये टूटी हुई बिखरी हुई मौज एक नई मौज बनने को फिर पलट जाती है. So just like a wave, जब एक wave आती है, it hits the beach, it goes back and comes back as another wave. So an entrepreneur should have that never give up attitude, and there's no harm in quitting. I mean, there's absolutely no harm in quitting unless and until you start regrouping. So you should know where to stop and regroup. There's a question that one of the audience had asked. Can I address that? Maybe do we have time? It's a relevant question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can.
So she's saying that she has a business of her own and her sales are not increasing and the business might go into a loss. What should be my first plan of action? Your first plan of action should be start regrouping. A strategy is decided over for a longer period. Course corrections can happen every day. Do not be afraid of them. As Aman also said that, go back to the design board, start thinking about what you can do again. But but the fundamentals of business, they're ancient and they've been the same since the start of business itself. Sales, purchase, profit and loss. ये चार चीजें हैं जो कोई भी बड़े से बड़ा बिजनेसमैन, छोटे से छोटा बिजनेसमैन, ये चार चीजों पे चलता ही है. So for Pratima, if a specific advice would be given, look at your fixed costs, try to reduce them. And make sure that you're not selling at a loss. I mean, you're not buying for 100 and selling for 90. Because that is the time in business decision making, you call that a shutdown point. So you should just check out your fixed costs like salaries, rents, electricity, consumptions and all. Try to cut down on them. If your product is profitable, you can still continue to go ahead with your product. Maybe devise a new strategy, go online, start catering to a smaller geographical area, start, get in touch with the consultancy. But if you're selling, if your variable profits are there are no variable profits, as in that you're not making a profit on your product itself or your service itself, then I think it's a time to regroup, not quit, but regroup.
Yeah, so regrouping is like very important when after hitting a certain point. I mean, even I did that. So it's basically you need to tell yourself that it's not over until it's over and just get on with it. Anyways, there's one person, Rishi Saraf. He wants to ask you all a question. Rishi, if you can unmute your mic now.
Yes, thank you. Hello, sir. So being an entrepreneur, how should one master a particular skill not taught to him at university and be able to manage a business which requires that particular skill? For instance, Elon Musk not having an aerospace degree, but still running SpaceX. So what should be the mentality that an entrepreneur should have while learning a skill?
So
I think Elon Musk did learn, right? He took up a degree later on, right?
I've had discussions with Elon about this. So I met him in 2017 end, I think. And I didn't ask him this question directly, but I did ask him this, that what's the most challenging part of launching a rocket? And he says controlling the anxiety when it counts down from 10 to 1. It's not about it's that attitude is what I'm trying to say. It's really never whether you walk into a room and say, okay, maybe I don't know what this is. Maybe there are people who know it better than me and stuff like that. And I face this on a daily basis. When we are talking to a client, we'll have these IIT professors walk into the room who will say, because we are from IIT, we know everything, right? And I'm not from IIT, and that's something that's been held against me for a long time, especially in the professional sphere like defense. When someone would get up and say, would challenge my technical prowess directly, saying your system or your technology cannot work because this is because you're not from IIT. And I say, who told you smart people only come from there? Smart people can come from SRM Chennai as well. Then I proceed to show them that, for example, one of these presentations, someone went on and on, a professor from IIT Madras, quite a popular guy. I'm not going to name him, I'll cause a controversy, but he went on and on for almost 40 minutes saying that the product that you're trying to pitch, is pitching a short range ballistic missile, is not possible. It can't work. There is no way the physics works out, and the math and blah and whatever. And then after 40 minutes, I played a 1 minute video which showed that it worked, because I had made a prototype a year back, which didn't give me the opportunity to talk about. And there was stunned silence in the room. And that's what I said, that between R and D, you guys only focus on the R, I focus on the D, because for me, that's more important. And so what I'm trying to impress upon you is that it's okay if you don't have that kind of skill set, and if you're trying to get into that field. Let's say if you're Ola and if you've never built a scooter in your life, and suddenly the founder one day decides that, we're going to put up the biggest scooter manufacturing factory there is, Asia has ever seen. It's okay if you don't have that skill almost immediately, but it's important to learn how it works, so that your clients, your investors, your employees, or whoever is in your immediate sphere of influence does not take you for a ride. That's important. There are people who can fool you into believing that what you're thinking is wrong or bad or whatever. But if you know the subject matter, it's great to have that in your pocket. That's one of the most salient advantage factors that you can get. And of course, the experience that you build with it. Like, I think experience is the biggest teacher. Failure is the biggest teacher there is. The more you fail, the bigger you fail, the better you learn. And then you're more careful about things. Like earlier starting on, I would fail at maybe deals worth 10 lakh, 15 lakh, 20 lakh. Now I fail at deals worth 15 CR, 20 crores, 30 crores, 100 crores. And I love that experience, because the more you fail, the more you learn about yourself. You start learning about things that have gone wrong. And that's the best way to develop. Sharnam, what do you think about that?
Aman, I feel that life teaches you. That's the only thing I can say. If you don't have a qualification, no problem. Probably Dhirubhai Ambani didn't have a qualification, but yet he created an empire. So your basic business acumen, you're not born with it, you always acquire it. It's not that you will learn business by only doing business, but there are a lot of experiences in life that you would have had, which you don't know they're affecting your decision making today. But end of the day, to sum up, life teaches you, your business experience itself will teach you. And when you start after failure, you don't start from scratch, you start from experience.
Right, yes. Another question for Sharanam. When you felt like giving up, what kept you going?
That's a very short answer to that would be, I looked back at what I've achieved till now. Because when I started from zero till, even if I'm at 10, when I look back at that journey, there are very fond memories of it. So when I thought that, it's time to give up on this kind of business, or, I would like to change the line of business, or maybe the products and everything, this is not working out for me. The only thing that, I used to sit with my dad, or even alone, we used to discuss that, let's discuss the positive things. Like, how far have we come? What sale we used to do maybe when we started? We didn't know how to even sell a packet. But yet, we sold so many. We came out to be maybe say at 10, and then we went down to 20, at 30. And today when I look back, okay, I mean, sometime what I was selling in a year, I'm selling in a month now. So those gratifying things You have to look for your opportunities. You have to look for your own motivation. A businessman or a businesswoman would always be self-motivated. And आपको चलते ही जाना होगा. जैसे वो गाना है एक बहुत पुराना कि नदियाँ चले चले रे धारा, चंदा चले चले रे धारा, तुझको चलना होगा. So you have to keep moving, keep pushing ahead, and find your own motivation. Self-motivation is key.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about this quote, like you haven't only come this far to just come this far. So, I mean, you have to look back, and that's what I think a lot of people, face issues, that they compare themselves to others, but they don't really compare themselves to their past selves, and they don't see the growth there. So yeah, I mean, that's great piece of advice. So 2 more questions, then we can move on to audience's question and answers. What are the books you would recommend an entrepreneur should read? Like, definitely they should have it on their reading list. Aman, I want both of y'all to answer this, but yeah.
Yeah, so I post this on my Instagram stories almost every week. So I've got a reading list that I finish off once every 3 days, and then I've got a reading list that goes every once a week. So once a week books are the books that I take notes from that are important. Like I list down some of the lessons that I learned from these books. And the 3-day, 2-day books are mostly I don't read fictional anymore, but yeah, they're more exciting stories that I can just read as stories and forget about. So some of the long-term books is the Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's an old book. It's a generations old book. It taught the Chinese army, the then Chinese army, on how to fight off the Mongols and how to fight off the Japanese invasion. Because Sun Tzu was a wartime philosopher, was like the Chanakya of the Chinese Empire back then in 622 BC. So this book largely dictates how protocols and doctrines of an organization are supposed to be in times of war. Like I'm of course I'm not going to dive into what the book is and whatever, but for example, it said when an organization comes and works together, whether it's farmers or, because you didn't have an active army back then, I'm talking about generations ago. You had farmers who would just pick up arms, train for a certain time, and get into combat a war. So they say it said that a typical organization like that, organization that's been banded for a particular purpose, that is to fight, in this case, fight off an invasion. They don't actively look out for conflict, but they should always be prepared for when it comes, right? So the idea is that you should never go in unprepared for any situation in life. So when you would see a lot of people I see who wouldn't wear like ties when it's in a formal environment, they would just come at the door of the conference room and put on a tie, right? Now, if you're in an airport or if you're in a location where you can be spotted, by someone important, and if you're not prepared, then, if you're not prepared for conflict before it happens, this might be the case. You might get into like uncharted territories. You might not win the battle that day. So it's always better to be prepared for scenarios that come your way. So that's one of those things that the book has taught me. Then there are books like The Mind Tells You Why. It is also one of these important books, not by an entrepreneur, but things like these put you in the right direction. Like there's a fun book that I read called How to Negotiate Anything. And it was just basic, it was not a huge book, but it's basic things onto what negotiation tactics are, and when you're in a room sitting in front of a person you're supposed to negotiate with. This author takes examples of negotiating, giving treats to his dog. So that's how he wins that negotiation, and the lessons that he can learn from there translate into business. Those are important points in things like that. So most of the stuff that I read has nothing to do with businesses and whatever. When I started off in 2015-16, I had no ideas what M&As are. And frankly, I don't think I know even today. I don't think, and I've done an M&A, but I still don't know if I know the inside out of an M&A. So I read this book called Mergers and Acquisitions for Dummies. It's a great read. It's so hilarious. It's amazing. And it puts the point across, gives you a basic overview of a merger and acquisition. So most of what I read as an entrepreneur is to do with life, on how to deal with yourself. I am a huge fan of Chanakya Niti. Chanakya Niti is it's one of India's very old theological philosophy books, where Chanakya is, of course, everyone knows who Chanakya is. but most people don't know what he did. Chandragupta Maurya did not belong to a certain section of society. He wasn't royal family. He wasn't royal blood. In fact, he had nothing to do with the kingdom. He was not even in politics when that happened. When Chanakya was at the doorstep of the then king, the king kicked him out. The king insulted him and kicked him out. And he promised that day that he will pick up someone from the street and make him the emperor, make him the king of that empire. And that person was Chandragupta Maurya. So Chanakya Niti largely talks about how you can take something very ordinary and create something into extraordinary, something that, and the world remembers Chandragupta Maurya for the kind of things he did, right? So it talks about the kingmaker and, how to achieve targets and deliver success and stuff like that. So I'm a huge fan of that. And of course, again, I'm not trying to, please don't take it as this is my religion or my faith or whatever that is. I love reading the Quran. It brings me, internal peace. I might not understand it completely. I do speak Arabic. I can write Arabic, but it's not something that I actively, publicize. It's something that brings me internal peace. So when I'm in turmoil, when I'm having an internal struggle, I like reading the Quran. I like reading out the namaz. That's something that I do. And I'm not Muslim, by the way. But if you are ever stuck in life, if you think you need direction, and if you think you need answer to a problem, believe me when I tell you this, the Bhagavad Gita has answers to everything. You should just know how to interpret it. If you know how to, or ask someone from your family, ask someone from your friends who've read it to interpret it for you. But that book, I feel, is the answer to everything. And I'm not publicizing it. Just please don't take it as a, theological publication, but something that I personally like to believe in. And of course, I've read it multiple times cover to cover, but it's always guided me whenever I feel that I'm at crosshairs with something, or I'm at, let's say I failed a big contract and I'm sitting that day, I don't know what to do. I pick up the Gita, I read a couple of chapters. It's not that big. And I feel okay. I feel at peace. So I feel that's something that young kids should really get into. It will really teach you ropes of life. And if you can interpret it properly, maybe you can help someone in the future as well.
Yeah, right. All of these are great. Read. I'm going to write it down and add it to my list immediately.
Even I've noted down a couple of names from Aman, because I've read enough books in my CA, so I'm not a very avid reader as such.
Oh.
But yes,
what
I
are
do
the
believe that.
Yeah, what are the books you would recommend? Like, even if it's like, towards the economic background or something like that.
Honestly, Nirvi, I'm really not a very avid reader. The last book I read was probably Harry Potter, and it ended there. Other than CA, I read books almost 2 feet high. I could jump over them in a hurdle race, but that is the kind of reading that I could, and I did. I am more of a audio-visual guy. I like to subscribe to YouTube channels, to podcasts. Like there's something on Instagram I recently came across, Mad Over Marketing, MOM. Very good podcast and all that they're given. 10-minute podcast of what a brand was, or what kind of campaigns are going on in marketing. Because that is something that I want to learn. Because being finance field, I know about finance. I can go through a newspaper. Newspaper itself is a very good read every day. But for me, that is a very good read. But on YouTube, you have a lot of channels based on science and on commerce, economics. And there are some people who actually go through an entire case study, the 20-minute videos. So I'm more of an audiovisual guy, and not of a books, as much a book reader as Aman is. Really, kudos to you, man. You can read a lot.
Someone has requested the list of books to be, sent on the WhatsApp group. So would it be okay if I send it? Like, I've noted these down. If you have any additional books, Aman, let me know.
Yeah, I'll text the whole list to you. I'll text you my whole library. I've got 300. My mom loves to read. My grandmom loves to read. So I love to read. And I believe it or not, I got this habit from Seema ma'am. She told me this when I was 6th grade. And she says, if you want to be somewhere in life, start reading. Of course, it's not a universal advice or whatever, but it really helped me. I'm sure she meant it that you get into reading, it's going to help you. So that's great.
There's one question from Mansita. Okay, she got her answer. Okay, so since we are at the end of the session, would everyone want to introduce themselves one by one? We can start with Okay, there's one more question. We'll start with that. What are the YouTube channel suggestions you would give, Sharanam, to people like, you said you watch YouTube or, podcast as well. So what are the recommendations you'd give?
I can rather give it to you at the end of the session because I'm not able to recollect much as of now. The most recent one that I've joined is Mado Marketing on Instagram. So you can subscribe it over there. Real good fun. Then there is a Pune-based person who takes up case studies. I don't now I realize I've never even checked out the name of that person, but those videos keep popping up. That's why I say artificial intelligence is the next big thing because that keeps coming up in the related searches. So that's one thing. I also keep watching a lot of manufacturing videos. As I'm very curious as to the manufacturing of a lot of things. Like I was just going through one in the morning, how plywood is made. So there are a lot of channels that give you as to how manufacturing processes go through. A particular list of channel, I'll rather go through it and then I'll be able to share.
Yeah, sure, fine. Just like send it to me. I'll forward it to them. Like because all of these young entrepreneurs, they're very eager to learn a lot. So personally, if I would to recommend, I would recommend Ego is the Enemy. It's a very good read, puts you into perspective, and You Are a Badass. It's again amazing book. Like changed my life. So these are the two books I'd recommend. So yeah, let's make this more interactive. Let's introduce everyone. Okay, let's start with Arnav Sharma. Could you please switch on the video and like introduce yourself? I don't think he's there. Okay, let's start. Ananya Nayak, is she there? Okay, if anyone wants to speak or introduce yourself, you can raise your hands now because that would take a lot of time, asking everyone personally. So does anyone want to introduce themselves? Okay. Kedar, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm Kedar Parekh, and unfortunately, I won't be able to start my video because I'm not in the position to do it right now. But I was very inspired by this session, and I'm not very much into reading, but after what Aman said about how it can his recommendations and other stuff, it really inspired me to go into reading. My sister loves to read, and she keeps telling me to like start reading. And what Aman said really inspired me to start reading. I in fact went on Amazon to like check out some books right that second. And what Sharanam said about trying stuff when you're young, I couldn't agree with it more because I had a small YouTube channel. I like reached till 150 subscribers. I know that's not a lot, but that's still something. And I was like, I reached till 50 subscribers and then I just lost all my motivation. So I deleted all my videos and stuff. But then again, I regained my confidence and then I reached till 150 subscribers with a couple of videos. And right now I stopped doing it again. But I couldn't agree more with Saranam about how you should try stuff when you're young because you have a lot less at stake. You don't have much to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for this session. It was amazing.
Yeah, and it's actually a great thing that you started your YouTube channel. It takes guts for that as well. Okay, so
डरने का नहीं, I'm telling you this. Don't ever feel कि यार सोशल मीडिया पे क्या जजमेंट होगा, क्योंकि जो लोग तुम्हें सोशल मीडिया पे जज करेंगे उन्हें कुछ उखाड़ा नहीं घास लाइफ में. They are on social media. You will never find successful people spending excessive time on social media, commenting on everything. And they say, people who complain a lot are people who can't do actively much about it anyway. So people who actually get things done don't really complain that much because they know solutions to problems. So don't ever feel that you'll be judged for what you do. डरने का नहीं, बिंदास है, दुनिया पागल है. Do what you like.
Yeah. Okay. Ojasvi wants to interact. Ojasvi, can you please unmute your mic and video?
Hi, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah, you're audible.
So, Aman's charismatic spark has never been new to me. I have always been interacted on his stories. Like, itni creative and so productive means this is a mixture of everything we need. If he has humor, he has creativity, he has productivity and all that. I have always been inspired. I was introduced to him in the time of COVID when he was sending out to 9 in cans, and I was fortunate enough to have a call with him. And that's all I wanted to say, that I am really, really very much inspired by you. And both of these persons sitting here, I'm kind of mixture. Like, I'm in the tech field because I belong to science background, and thanks to COVID, that colleges were delayed. I did a 3 months marketing course also, so I am little bit into that to, get some money and do my stuff and all. So actually, I wanted to ask a question also, if I can. So I always had an idea to get a profitability out of some small business using marketings and sales, and then go into tech. Like, I also want to invest in green energy, as Aman has the same vision. So what do you think, like, how to make approaches? My main problem has been how to make approaches. For an example, I would ask you, Aman, that when you made the decision that you want to go into military technology, like how you made the first approach to the government that I have these prototypes or I have this vision and I want to associate with the government of India and I want to proceed with the workings of military, that because that is a high end and confidential and everything sensitive. So how do you deal with that? And second question, like, I have also my studies going on. So how did you manage that studies and business, that too sitting in the US and managing the business, security including or something, confidential business in India. So can you please give me an insight over that?
So, I mean, the answer to the first question is pretty simple. Fearlessly, that's how I approach the government. Because I said, I know that I can build good stuff. I mean, I have the background for it. I do have the confidence for it. I told the government I don't have the money for it. Neither do I have the political backing required to do projects of that size. And in fact, the first letter, I can tell you that also because there's just 18 participants and I think this is a safe space. The first time I got really triggered, by triggered, I mean really, really upset, was the Uri attack in the Poonch sector when, our CRPF Jawans were killed mercilessly with IED attacks. And that really disturbed me. So I wrote a letter to the PM. I've got it framed actually. I wrote a letter to the PM saying, I'm really upset with this, and it really bothered me a lot because I'm the grandson of a brigadier. So an attack on the forces, the attack on our men really disturbs me. And to my surprise, the PM responded within 18 hours of the receipt of the letter. And he said, why don't you come over and meet? He gave me like a 7-minute, 8-minute time slot, which is huge. So I went over to the PMO and I met him and I told him, this is my problem. And how can I help you? And I said, I can build you drones that do long range surveillance. I can't attack. I'm not allowed to attack someone with a drone, but I can build you something that can look over the border. And he connected me to the right people. That's all I can say at the moment, even though the movie is out and the story is out or whatever. But in the confidentiality, the Official Secrets Act, I'm only allowed to tell you this much, that he connected me to the right people. I got in touch with the right people who can move and drive these things forward. So if you've got a project in mind, and you have to realize the government is serving you and not the other way around. They are being voted in power by you. So it's their right to service you, right? And this again comes from *𝐀𝐦𝐿𝐴 Niti, a very great excerpt from *𝐀𝐦𝐿𝐴 Niti, where the king at that, not Chandragupta Maurya, the king at that time, he was in a village and he got a woman pregnant. So 9 months later, when the woman gave birth to a baby, the woman walked almost 300 miles from her village to the palace. At 4 in the morning, she rings the doorbell of the main palace, and the guard comes out of the palace and says, what's your problem? So the woman says, here I have a baby who is supposed to be the king's baby because he got me pregnant while he was in the village. Can I meet the king? And of course, the official shlok is in Sanskrit, and I can recite it, but I'll just tell you the Hindi translation of it. The shlok said that the god is telling the woman that it is your constitutional right to meet your ruler, because the ruler is in his place because of you. Agar praja nahi ho to raja nahi hoga. That's what he said.
That's from Shakuntalam, I guess. Shakuntalam.
Yeah, it's a direct translation. Yes, exactly. It's an excerpt. So it's a constitutional right of a ruler to meet his constituents, the people he's trying to serve, right? So you have to believe in that your government it's your official right to meet your MLA, your member of parliament, person you have voted in power. Even if you're not of the voting age, your parents of your family have voted in power, your district has voted in power, right? So that's what the belief I had since forever. So I met the government at that time, and he connected me to the right people, and that's where the funding step began. And you have to realize nothing happens without money. Even the best of the best technologies, if you want to make money, you need to have money. So right, that's the first step. And of course, managing business and studies together, honestly, don't. It's something that I learned the hard way. It's extremely difficult. And of course, if you can do it, go ahead. Maybe I just tell this very often. Someone calls me and says from Mumbai that your technology is going to be stolen. Someone's going to make a better product than you. And I used to say this very blatantly. If my competitor can make this product while handling a master's degree successfully, then they deserve the contract more than I do. Please go ahead and give it to them. And I was very clear about it, because it's not easy. And that's what I'd like to impress upon everyone as well. I recite this example just because I've done that mistake. So I hope that people learn from it, that when you're working, focus on the work. When you're studying, focus on the studies. Don't mix them up. Otherwise, you'll be like me, sitting in a lecture half the time on my WhatsApp, trying to communicate with my team and taking notes and kind of messing both of these things up in the process. So of course, if you have no other option, you have to do it. Like it's COVID time, like Sharnam said, and I think he's absolutely right when he says it. I think Sharnam, I'd like you to highlight that part that you mentioned about managing time. Because I think you're way better than that than me. I'm not that great a time manager. So I think I'd really like if Sharnam comes in and talks to you about managing time.
I really struggle myself at time management here, because the main problem comes in compartmentalization. You need to know where you stop on one task and get on to another, because that is more important. So, but yes, in terms of what you were also saying, that Aman managing his own business and studies, sitting in the US, managing his business in India, going through those contracts. I think if you have the right kind of IT infrastructure, I think multi-locational business should not be a problem anyway. I have an entire ERP software wherein even a 10 rupee transaction is displayed to me wherever I am across time zones. So if I have that kind of system, that infrastructure, IT infrastructure, so it will not be an issue for me to track my business or even communicate. There's yes, one thing I would like to say, that I'm sure even Aman wouldn't have been able to run his business successfully if his initial time just to select the right people to do that job for him would have not been there. So similarly, your initial investment will go into finding the right people, and definitely you will not get it right the first time, also maybe not the second time, but eventually when you have the right team in place, you only need to communicate with them your entire target, your goal, how you want it achieved, and they'll do the rest for you. Always supported with the right technology for communication.
Thanks for the answer. That was, great to hear and great to see Aman Johri live. Okay, goodbye. Good day.
Yeah. Vishwaja wants to introduce herself. So Vishwaja, you can unmute your mic and speak.
So hello everyone, am I audible? Yeah, so my name is Vishwaja and I am currently in class 12th ISC. So this session was actually very much motivating for me, that it is not just kal utkar hum entrepreneur ban jayenge. It is way different. We need to work hard over it, and it's not just wasting time here and think I'll start a business, I'll become an entrepreneur. We need to work over it. And I would like to say one thing, it is like it many a times I know I need to do work, but I keep on wasting time, or maybe delaying it. And it is when, if I'm surfing Instagram and I see Aman sir's story, it motivates me, like, no, I'm wasting time here, he's doing something, and it motivates me like in 2 times the speed, like, no, I need to do something if I need to become successful. So I feel, thank you. So your stories really motivate me, like I need to do something really. And also Sharanam sir, your session, it was really nice. It was very much motivating for me. Thank you.
Like everyone is inspired by y'all, honestly. Sure. I mean, the Gundecha, all the students are like,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
what I don't understand. My Instagram stories are my place for shit posting. जब मेरे दिमाग में कुछ नहीं होता है, तब मैं वहाँ पे एक दो post करता हूँ. I don't know. If it works for everyone, great. I guess you guys are learning something from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever you see about staying up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., don't do that. Please get sleep when you can. Coming from someone who doesn't sleep at all, please, if you can get sleep, get sleep.
Tanish Shah wants to talk. So can you please unmute your mic?
Okay. Thank you everyone. Good evening everyone. Firstly, I'm Tanish Shah. I'm a student of Standard 10th Gundecha. I've already been inspired by Aman sir since 2017 from the first GEAA MUN. So I guess 18, yeah, it was 18. And today I was greatly inspired by him and Charnam sir a lot. Like, I had a plan of getting a startup done before I would just complete my first degree, that is be bachelor's in anything. But now I have dropped that plan after hearing from your experiences, sir. Like, I had a plan to get a startup. Like, the father owns a company. My grandfather was he was an entrepreneur. He started up the company. But now, like, I'll just focus on my studies first. I'll get all the degrees done, and then I will focus on whatever I want. Thank you, alumni. Thank you, sirs.
I think you should do that, yeah. First, get that education, get the right experience in terms of education also. Because if you start, I did say that you start early, but not very early, that you don't have you yourself don't realize what you are capable of. Realize it a bit through your education, you will do that. You will find out your interest, your passion, and that will guide you to what your business could be.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Mansita wants to introduce herself and talk.
Hi, I'm Mansita. The session was really fun and interesting. I had this one last question for Aman. It's like I am not an avid reader, so please ignore my parrot shouting in the background. Can you share like how you kept yourself motivated and consistent during the initial days of reading?
I've got two parrots, so I understand the scream.
Oh.
But yeah, I think it comes internally, by the way. Start with reading things that you find a lot of interest in, because then I call it the author's paradox. Some of the most interesting reads are extremely boring in the beginning. The first chapters are so excruciating, it's painfully boring that you have to go through it. I'm sure all of you have experiences when you start a new movie that you've never heard of, and you have to go through that intro scene. It's just annoying to see why the director has, specifically made it so strenuous for someone to understand. And that's the same with books. So pick out things that particularly interest you, the genres, and it's important in your early days to stick to genres you like. For example, for me, it was Enid Blyton. Enid Blyton to me is the god of children's books reading, because Enid Blyton will, impart that kind of level of knowledge that exactly a child goes through. And then from Enid Blyton, I moved to P.G. Wodehouse. And the reason I moved to P.G. Wodehouse is because my mom really loved P.G. Wodehouse. And it's extremely funny. The books are so funny, but the language is so tough. It's 10 times Shashi Tharoor. So for me to grasp it, it took me a while, but I was motivated because my mom said it's funny. So the whole time I was reading it, I was just trying to find the joke. Where is the joke? I know it's somewhere there in that entire paragraph, and I'm trying to find where the punchline, where the premise, where the setup is. And in the meantime, I picked up a dictionary. So I had a dictionary of thesaurus next to me while I was reading P.G. Wodehouse, and it got me hooked to the thesaurus more than it got me hooked to P.G. Wodehouse. So right after I finished the 13 series P.G. Wodehouse, I moved to the thesaurus, which is not something you read. But what I started doing is from thesaurus, you find 10, 15 meanings of different words. I started reading where that word comes from. So if I have to learn about pedagogy is a phenomenon or experience. I started reading where pedagogy comes from as a word, from Latin, from Greek, from early days of Roman empires, and I think that's where my journey kind of started spreading out. So it's important to know what your interests are. And I think something that was a very motivating factor for me is that a girl I really liked in school, she recommended an author to me, and I said, okay, I've got to check this author out. So I read the entire 25-part book series, but she had read maybe 2. But just because I was interested in it, that kind of gave me that motivation. Nothing to learn from in this experience, definitely, but it's kind of pushed me. So it's always a driving thing. And if I can tell everyone, because this is a recording and I don't know how many people will watch it later, when you're going to bed, instead of watching Instagram and Facebook for the last 10 minutes before you go to sleep, kick that phone away, put it on charge or wherever you like to put it. Pick up a book, maybe read a chapter right before you go to bed. That habit will stay with you for life. And whether you have a phone or not, at least you will go to sleep with your head in a different world entirely. That really helps.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I'll keep that in mind.
So last question to Sharanam. I mean, it's a myth, like, it's a stereotype that entrepreneurship is just for rich people or like, rich family. It's not for middle class. This is the risk you have to take. What are your opinions about that?
Absolutely false. Entrepreneurship is it's across classes, it's across gender, across caste, creed, religion, whatever you call it. What I think is the basic language and religion of entrepreneurship is your product and the money that you put in it and the money you make from it. That's the only religion. You might have, when you're getting married, you might see somebody's caste, creed, religion, or whatever. But when you're doing business with somebody, there is no bar, there is no kind of curtain. I mean, what we say is, if we have a fight with a customer, once that matter is solved, you're back to him. There's no ego in business. If you have an ego in business, either you got to be very big for it, you got to be too big for it, or then you're doing it wrong. So never have an ego in business. There is no kind of the class that only middle class people should only do service and jobs and the rich people should do business. Absolutely false. If you have that kind of, firstly, you have that courage to get into a business, at least lose it once. That's all that is needed. Over a period of time, then yes, when you start thinking about your business, you need to find out, the funding. Funding can be as much as from a big venture capitalist, or even from your father, or even from your family, your friends, your relatives. So as small as maybe 10,000 rupees to start a shop, to maybe multi-crores, multi-billion dollars to start a big defense company. So as much as you think that it's for any kind of a certain sector of people, absolutely not. And I'm really, I visit a lot of countries in the Far East, and for my textile business. In Vietnam, as much as I've traveled, for the first time when I went there with my colleague, I noticed a very small but very good thing. The leader of each and every company, or at least say 8 out of 10 companies, was a woman. Some were definitely from a very rich background, some were from a very poor background. They were the tough women. You could really get inspired by them. Even one of my office managers over there, she's been there for 15 years now. And the kind of respect she commands in her entire market, it's commendable. So she never started very big, or the business owners in Vietnam, they never started very big. They started from small companies, small traders, going on to manufacturing, and they deal with that professionalism. You cannot judge. You cannot judge them over there. She's a woman, okay, she might talk sense or not. Absolutely not. If you keep that in your mind, you're out. And in the Far East, there are a lot of women entrepreneurs who are really making it big. You'll be surprised. They're running maybe, say, in Indian terms, 1,000 crore ki company chala rahe hain, and they're so modest. And if I go up and ask, if anybody goes up and asks them that, being a woman, what were your challenges? you will find an answer as good as for any other entrepreneur, not specifically a woman. So that's the kind of attitude over there. So it's not for any gender, it's not for any class of people. There's no age barrier. As I said, at 65, you could run KFC, and maybe at 20, maybe you could be a CEO of another company. So there's no age. What you need to have is the will to go through that business and commitment to take it through. Many of us, we start a business, shock mein shuru kar dete hain. And, we are the generation, the millennials of instant gratification. We want to see, we want to make a difference, what we call it. But that difference, it takes time. It's not very easy. It will not happen over a period of months or even years. It could take decades. So be prepared for that. Understand your resources, your limitations, and then start a business. You don't need to be you can be anybody who starts a business. And we never know, out of the participants over here, one of us might be a big person, maybe after 10 years also.
Yeah, so I mean, entrepreneurship, business, it doesn't have any boundaries. It is gender neutral, it is not class specific. So anyone can pursue it at any age. So, everyone here is, worth more than their second thoughts and maybes. And I think something which you've built from the start up, from scratch, deserves more chances. So if anyone here is struggling, thinking of giving up, remember that something you've built from scratch deserves more chances than something else. So with that note, we'll end this session today. I hope all of your queries were answered and you all had a great experience. We'd love if you could give us a feedback on the group as well. And we'll surely send a list of all the podcasts and books on the WhatsApp group. You can also ask questions on the group and we'll try to, ask them to the speakers as and when they have the time. Yes, Dhruv.
Yeah, hi. Just before everyone leaves, I think there are like 16 participants in total, out of which we are like 7, I guess. But thank you to the around 10 people who stayed back till the end. I realize it's quite late. It's the dinner time of most of us, and many of us skip our dinners, including our speakers. So first of all, thank you to our wonderful speakers, Aman and Sharanam. Thank you so much for being here with us. You guys gave us a lot of time from your busy schedules, and we're very thankful for that. My name is 𝐷𝐿. I'll just give a short introduction. I am the current treasurer of the alumni, and with us from the core team, we have Sharan. Sharan, if you could just introduce yourself.
Sharan, and I'm currently pursuing company secretary, which is corporate law. So yeah, I'm the vice president currently at the alumni. Nice to attend your session today.
So thank you so much. And just one thing, I would like to add to entrepreneurship, just the last question which Sharanam answered, about the boundaries, about there being no boundaries. So I've seen from, all of us, we go to street food stalls, we have pani puri, safely, all of these things from street food vendors. Now in Lucknow, where I'm from, over there we have this very, I think it's around 80 to 100 years old. There's a shop called, I don't practically remember, but we go there every morning for a morning walk. After that, we go there, have, chai, samosa, bun, makhan, all of this stuff. The owner of that shop, it is, from the face of it, it's a very old shop. It doesn't look hi-fi, no technology. It's just, you look at it and there's just old laborers, poor laborers who are working there, asses off, who are working, frying samosas and everything. But the owner of that shop, he has a multi-crore business just from that one particular shop, because he's been there for 80 to 100 years. So entrepreneurship, today when I go have a vada pav, that guy converts, let's say 500 to, that guy sells 500 to 1000 vada pavs a day, at the rate of 10 rupees per piece. So the earning from that, the profit from that, he earns so much more than what we can today imagine by going out. We won't even know about it. So if anyone is interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, go ahead with it. Just try it out. You fail, that's it. I mean, this is the age where we fail. We just need that experience, and that counts a lot.
Yeah, and see, that is also something. Sharanam only had said that thing in, at your last statement, basically, when you said that, we start a business and then we just give up because it doesn't boom instantly. And that is something that most of my friends also have gone through, even me, in fact. Okay, so yeah, that is like the reality of starting a business, okay, which I could totally relate to. So, but we should never give up. At least if you can't balance it out, then postpone it, have it later on, but don't leave it completely, right? Continue.
I was saying that as Dhruv pointed out, in Lucknow, there's a shop that makes a multi-crore business. I was very surprised to see the dosa wala in front of my college in 𝐼𝐚𝐵. He had a turnover of 10 crores, yeah. I was surprised. And one day we came to know what, because there was an income tax raid on his stall. And we were surprised that एक stall पे raid मार दी income tax department ने, यार उसका turnover 10 crore है. And वो क्या बेचता है? वड़ा पाव, बन मक्खन, डोसास. And when you think about it, there are a lot of SKUs that person sells. But so that again highlighting my point, you don't need to be anybody to start a business. You can be anybody to start a business.
Exactly. It's just wonderful to hear about this stuff. And exactly, even I heard it because of an income tax raid which happened. That is how that guy had BMW seized, Mercedes seized from his house. So amazing stuff. Anyway, we'll be ending the session now. Thank you to all the participants. I would request the speakers, if you have a few minutes, to stay back with the core team. And all the participants, you may leave now. If you have any further questions, feel free to put it out in the WhatsApp group. And if possible, we will have the speakers or someone from our team get back to you guys. Okay, thank you so much.